Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Overwatch League. It has been a day to remember for multiple reasons. Of course, the Washington Justice making very big changes at the 11th hour, apparently, and technology tending to do this thing. Big shout out to Jake, though. Nicely done.
I was going to say, how does it feel that you don't have to introduce yourself? You already just kind of barged in through the door on somebody else's cast.
I would say I was contacted, flown in a private jet, and begged to open the door and walk over the threshold, and was still failed by technology. So that's fine. But thank you very much, Jake, and nicely done with that previous game. Matt, let's get everyone back up to speed. Yeah. Maybe they're just tuning in now. Maybe they missed the Destructoid, right? Sort of, threw their sensors off a little bit. Let's have a look at our May tournament standings right now, and we can see where we're at, because, again, this is the last week of qualifiers.
Yes.
All said and done at the end of this week, we're going to be jumping straight into the tournament itself, Matthew.
Yeah, I believe the Florida Mayhem, they lock up a spot near the top. The Gladiators sit at 1-1, 4-4 overall for the season, where this match is huge for them to obviously get into the upper echelons of the standings for the May Melee.
I mean, yeah, you look at the Gladiators as a team who look very solid. They always kind of do this, though. Those matches that they really have to win, sometimes they just don't. And that match up against the Paris Eternal was a really challenging one. But there were many people on the Paris roster that were suffering their own challenges, like, I don't know, distance. But let's have a look at the roster today for Los Angeles Gladiators, Matt. It's Mira and Birdring. OG Space and Paintbrush makes his appearance here over Big Goose.
Yeah, I was going to say, we see really the consistent lineup for the Gladiators over time. But today we see Paintbrush in for Big Goose. So we'll see what he brings to the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Paintbrush has definitely been a fixture in the Tier 2 scene in Contenders for quite some time. He played at Mayhem Academy, and then a team called Revival. You may not know them that well, but they have very good graphics, and I love their branding. So they're still going. You can obviously check what they're up to in Contenders. But speaking of Contenders, mate, on the other side of the picture here, the Boston Uprising have seen Busan part ways with the team. Of course, the Dutch Fletch tank who really impressed people over
Brent's favorite
at
player
the World
in the
Cup.
league. Is now gone.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I thought he liked Jerry.
No, whenever Brent casts Bossy, he always starts off by saying, "I really like Busan," so I don't know what he's going to start saying now.
You can't go at the man for forgetting that he mentions the same thing. His replacement though, Matthew, quite an interesting prospect. Punk played on the Uprising Academy team. He then left that roster, went back home to Australia, but now he is back, and we got a few words from Punk, who holds a dual citizenship, by the way, on what he hopes to bring to this Boston Uprising lineup now that he's joined them.
Coming into the team as the new guy, it's a bit daunting, but obviously I think I can bring a different perspective and a different point of view for everything in game, and also like a level head and a bit of a motivation boost, I think, for the team, because we want to do our best to turn this season around and hopefully just perform the best we can.
Motivation boost, Matthew. Definitely something that the Boston Uprising could use right now. They're currently 1-10 on the season. It's a 9-match loss streak. It's been tough for them. Let's have a look at their roster, though, Matt, and point out some of the high points here, and and maybe identify some of the factors that helped them get a leg up today.
I like Jerry. I think Jerry's a good player. He went from so he went from being kind of like a meme for like one game with everybody kind of going crazy over Jerry, and then his performances that maybe didn't live up to that type of hype. But when you watch him play, the guy is a very good hit scan player. I think you put some more pieces around him, he can be one of the top hit scan players, I think, in the league.
Do we have I'm 37 syndrome when it comes to Jerry a little bit, Matt?
At the beginning we did. At the beginning it was definitely headed in that direction. But I think since then, since everything's going to calm down a little bit with the hype around Jerry, you can kind of assess him as a player, as just an individual on a more level basis now. And I still think he's extremely strong. Yeah, well, the hype may have deflated somewhat, but Jerry's still a quality player and has a heck of a lot ahead of him. Let's have a look at the map pool today and see where we'll be headed first. It will be Nepal to start the series off. We'll then get to see Hanamura and Gibraltar, with Blizzard World rounding out our 4 maps. Then, if we need more, it'll be back to Control, baby, and we'll see what these teams can put forward. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the heroes unavailable for selection this week are May, Tracer,
Orisa and Moira, Matt, we have a chance to sort of talk about what we've seen. We've seen a little bit of divergence in metas between regions, but there's a lot of Ashe and a lot of Echo so far.
Yeah, a lot of Ashe Echo here in NA. When I was watching some of the Asian games last night, a lot of Sombra still. So we'll see what these rosters today decide to go with. As we know with hero pools, it takes the teams, well, the teams in different regions obviously form different metas, but then also it kind of forms very late in the week up until the games come on. So it'll be interesting to see what they've settled on or what they have, what their adaptation of the meta is.
And especially interesting is the control maps, which, you know, often show us a little bit of a different look. In the match we just saw, right, we did see Reaper Symmetra get played on Lijiang Tower early on, where teams are sort of, you know, not wanting to go with the hit scan combined with the Echo so much. So we'll see. The Boston Uprising, at some point, Matthew, they have to start getting some W's. The Gladiators, though, are a little bit sore, a little bit bruised after their previous head-to-head with the Eternal, and they're looking to make amends real quick.
You know, you said at some point they have to start getting W's.
Yes.
There's the team, the Season 1 Shanghai Dragons, who can let you know at some point, maybe you don't.
At some point it happens, though. It just took a long time, Matthew.
Yeah, I mean, you know, different season, but it did happen. As, we'll see the Gladiators.
You should just put that in chat.
What did he put in? I didn't see it.
I'm not repeating that. We're out of the gates now. The Boston Uprising here. It will be Echo McCree. It's going to be Zarya for Punk, interestingly, here, of course, instead of the normal Sigma.
Yeah, you know, double shield is usually an extremely strong setup where the Zarya, it allows your Reinhardt to play a little bit more aggressive, and Color Hex getting both supports at the beginning, that's going to allow Boston to get control.
Yeah, nice opening there, of course. The focusing beam allowing Color Hex to snap up tanks pretty easily. And there's Zarya giving Fusions a little bit more confidence about sort of barreling forward and making use of the window of shielding available. The Gladiators, though, the huge changes here. I'm still very interested in what Mira brings here. We know his Doom Piece is incredible, and, well, looks like the Echo ain't too shabby either. Fusions goes down early in the fight. Space is low, though, when Shaz tries to keep him alive, but Color Hex burst him before he had the chance to respond. Over the top, Birdring is going to be able to force Myunbong away, who received a brief shield from Punk, but the Gladiators have numbers. OG may fall here, but he's created a window now for Punk to be dropped.
Yeah, I mean, the Gladiators do pick up enough kills here where they should be able to take it, but it looks like Boston trying to get on here, stall this out a little bit longer. Fusion's going to have to back up, doesn't have the support after Halo dies, so we'll see Boston, they'll regroup, they'll get back up towards the high ground, but somebody you mentioned at the beginning of that whole sequence was Mirror, where I think the biggest question mark with the Gladiators so far this season has been the damage dealer next to Birdring. I think Birdring's actually had a really good year, they just need to get one of those other damage dealers online.
Well, that last fight was a good one for Mira, and Matt, frankly, statistically, both Echoes are taking over when it comes to those kills. Color Hex with 4 already, and Mira's going to add now to it with Halo falling to sticky bombs. Every ability Mira uses is yielding a kill. Shaz does fall, a little bit less healing available for the Gladiators, but they've done the damage, and there's nothing to heal with Boston already 6 feet under.
Yes, the Glads will get up to about 50% on the point after the Boston will come in for this next fight, so COG just kind of looking that way with a shield that allows him to see around the corner just a little bit. Space can poke as well. So it looks like Boston, and I kind of agree with this. If you're going to play the Zarya, you got to get these close interactions. You got to force this right away.
You need to grab, Matt. That's what you need. Punk has it ready. Holds off, though, and he's shattered as a result. Color Hex made the duplication, but still fell. Mira able to get a fire strike there as he copied the Reinhardt, and the Gladiators have an embarrassment of riches at which to leverage at the Uprising. Boston crumbled, and this Graviton has to come out next fight, man, if they're going to stay in this round.
What is absolutely wild there is that Boston, so Color Hex uses his duplicate and takes OG, so they have 2 Reinhardts, and OG still gets a 3-player shatter. Like, how does that happen?
We talk about Reinhardts going for single shatters when double shield comps have been used against them, but...
my boy Jerry, though, popping off.
Hey, no grav required, just add water. Nice Deadeye from Jerry, quick 3-piece, and that will silence the Gladiators in their cohort for now. Boston, I mean, they'd be very pleased to get such a high-value fight there, just using the Deadeye. And they are going to be heading to the next one as well with a sound barrier, so a little bit to give them confidence here.
Main issue for the Gladiators is they can speed rush this top, get the grab out. You're not going to get sound barrier out, and you're going to give them a nano boost. It's do you think about investing your own beat into this when they grab, or do you hold on to it for a later date? At this time, it looks like they're potentially thinking about backing out, going low, but it looks like they'll bring this one up top.
Punk, he's hungry, Matt. Goes for the graviton early on here, and yet OG in space go down. Paintbrush, he was around the corner when he tried to give the sound barrier, so only a couple players received it, and the only players that got that overshield were the ones that weren't engaged in the fight. Oh dear, not ideal, and I think Punk will be grinning ear to ear with that one. Great setup.
Good grab, very good grab. What happens there, though, is exactly like you mentioned. Paintbrush uses his sound barrier because of the line of sight of the wall. He's only able to connect with him and, I believe, Shaz, which leaves the tanks to just get burst down. And that's worst case scenario for the Gladiators because you don't have that sound barrier now, and you really got no value out of it.
OG this time has to settle for very little when it comes to the Earth Shatter, but he gets himself a nano boost and a chance to get back in, but the Shatter comes away from Fusions. He lands it, OG drops, and Mira now on the left-hand side makes a focusing beam pick off on Myeonbong. You cannot be serious.
Look, sometimes Control, although it's about the objective, sometimes the fights are so good and so long you kind of forget about it. And it didn't look like they forgot about the point. It looks like they just didn't have anybody who could get down there and get a touch potentially in time. Although OG is the closest one, I believe Mira's right above him playing the Echo, so don't exactly know what happened.
Now Mira is killing like what, a Lucio above the point?
He killed the Ana, which is good.
The Ana. OG, in fairness, got shattered. He was the only player that got shattered by Fusions as he went for the cheeky crackback on the Ryan ultimate. But Boston Uprising, I don't know what to say. Now, let's see the replay. You can see where the teams are at now. This is Jerry's Deadeye, actually. Nicely done. And, of course, you want to make yourself scarce if you are an airborne target. But here we go, Matt. We're in the Shrine. No time to waste.
That's what I was talking about earlier. I feel like that Jerry is such a strong player. It's just... it's very difficult in Overwatch to be an individual who stands out on a team that's having really poor performances, where I think if you start to see them perform better, you're going to see Jerry get a lot more love for it.
Focusing beams, both Sigmas go down. You can see what the focus is for both rosters currently, but the follow-up is better for the Uprising. And Fusions is having himself an excellent map, Matthew. 7 final blows, 3 deaths. And a good start here for Boston, who do look reinvigorated today.
Yeah, and Boston puts away the Zarya here because there's not as many good uses for it. Obviously, Zarya in the first point is very good in the close quarter type scenarios, where right now, not the ideal pick. So that's why you bring out the Sigma.
Jerry comfortably sitting back on the point here, and it's really the Uprising. We'll wait to see which option the Gladiators take to approach the point. Birdring, oh my, gets a safe little purchase to McCree and clips the wings of Colorhex. Now he can flank, doesn't have to worry about the burst damage of Echo. And he just sits back behind OG, shot after shot connected. So the Gladiators now give themselves a lot of room to breathe, especially without Echo. She's now returned to the fray as Colorhex still tries to get in, but he'll be zoned out by Birdring on this left-hand side, who is looking for any sign of the winged creature. But that's another fat shatter from Fusions. It's 4, and the follow-up is so good. Colorhex gets in there with the sticky bombs, but Fusions now with 6 stuns from his ultimate to OG's 4, dominating in the Reinhardt battle.
Oh, that was a huge shatter there. As they give up the point to the Gladiators, they let them move on to it, and then they come right back. And I think the Gladiators were a little bit surprised that Fusions came around the corner and is going to shatter like that. As now the Gladiators still get set up here. You're going to have a Deadeye potentially from the high ground if Birdring wants to get cheeky. Is Myeonbong hiding here? So what's going to happen is if the Gladiators push up through here, he's going to just run in Biotic Grenade all of them at their feet.
He gets OG. Was that enough for him? Looks like it. Sleepdart was there, and it's an easy pick-off for Boston. That's a lovely example, Matt, of a little set play that you kind of teased for us. And the Uprising now are at 67%. The last time they won a match was their first in this season. And against the Gladiators, that would be quite a high-profile, I guess, victory to take.
I mean, it would be a huge map win. It's not a series win. It would be a map, but...
Bring back Jerry hype, Matt. Bring it back.
I think you can still get extremely excited as it'll be Space coming in with a Gravitic Flux. So really getting into one-fight territory here.
Sound barrier as soon as Boston touched the ground, and Birdring's Deadeye is unable to find any purchase. Now he's hunting for Jerry. He's able to outrange the flashbang and win the quick draw fight. Once again, he can flank around. Here's a Gravitic Flux here. A little bit scary for OG. Drops low, space even lower. Mira went to copy his Sigma and got slept. And OG now has to push forward with very little health left, but Fusions and Myeonbong are out of the picture. Boston lose their front line and the vast majority of their healing. OG is able to be taken care of, brought back to health, and he's able to lead the charge in the cleanup.
Yes, both teams go absolutely all in on that fight. Where the Gladiators needed to, Boston felt like if they kind of cycled through their ultimates, they would have had a good chance to win it as well, as Color Hex almost comes in with a big Gravitic Flux when he duplicates Sigma. So Boston now on their next attack. You'll have a Shatter, you'll have a Nano Boost to work with. You can kind of get aggressive with this Nano Boost, maybe get Shaz to use his as well, then maybe back off a little bit, get some health, and then try and let Fusions get a big Shatter.
Nano Boost here, Birdring blown up! He's down! Mira now over the top, he's the one who gets the Nano Boost, and those sticky bombs look a lot scarier now, but Color Hex is also able to match him on the other side of the map. It's spaced down. Color Hex looking over this situation as Boston are down to just 3 players, and Mira is cutting through them. It's an orbital lance. Limb 7 flying everywhere, and the Uprising have to back off again.
And the kills at the beginning are even, right? They're traded 1 for 1, but the issue is when we see from Color Hex's perspective, it's very hard for him to get into the point and make an impact. And Mirror just being able to fly around that central pillar, and he's able to get 2 with his beam when Fusions is really low. That's the main difference for that fight.
Earth Shatter for OG coming up. Punk also is going to have a Gravitic Flux here. Sound barriers should be available for both rosters, and it's a Deadeye to open it up. Fusion Shield is already low. Kinetic Grasp trying to use to ward the Uprising against the Deadeye, and it works. OG still has that Shatter, but now he's suspended in midair, awaiting his fate. Down to 185, is still looking for a chance to ultimate. It goes into a shield. Now OG sheepishly has to back away. Color Hex was able to find Mira, and they're lacking a little bit of damage in the front line. Shaz, the Sleep Dart is good though. Fusions is dropped. Shaz, though, also going to be taking a nap, and that's dangerous. Healing now is out of the picture for the time being. Birdring's able to equalize on the backside, but Jerry returns on the Doomfist. We're in overtime, and the Gladiators are running out of numbers. Mira trying to get a duplicate on his favorite hero, but he gets taken out of it immediately. It's going to be the focusing beam to remove him in the end. The paintbrush is knocked away from the point. The Boston Uprising set the flag down, and the Gladiators are reeling after that brawl.
Oh, it's a huge first map win there for Boston, and what really kind of turns the odds at the beginning of that fight is the Gladiators losing Mirror. He's got his duplicate, and he dies, you know, first, second player dead pretty much. And without that, to be able to put another tank on the point for the Gladiators, or in that instance where you were down a healer, potentially in that type of scenario, even just the damage of Echo, you just lost so much, where that one pick is the difference.
Sleep darts were huge, but that Gravitic Flux by Punk that caught OG and forced him to go for a panic Earth Shadow lest he'd be swept aside was really what seemed to hurt the Gladiators in that round. And the Uprising, I mean, that is not a good map for them sort of typically, but this seems to be a style that works for them well. That's their first win on Nepal for this entire season.
Look, it's their double shield wasn't like horrific, right? I think one of their main issues was that, like, I don't really think Color Hex was fantastic at May. Like, when you can now have Jerry on McCree, where we've seen him have good success, and then Color Hex doesn't have to play May, obviously not available this week in terms of the hero pool, and he can play Echo, something that suits his playstyle a little bit better, kind of like in a weird way, like a Pharah, right, where he's like in the sky, kind of moving around, a lot of mobility, etc. That's definitely a better look for Boston. So the hero pools this week may suit Boston's strengths.
Yeah, Jerry opening up in a big way as well. So now, as we head to a break, the Gladiators have a chance to collect themselves. They thought this would be a given, an easy win. The Boston Uprising are determined to prove them wrong. Stick around. Map 2 is right around the corner.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, helping you stay connected to what matters most. Learn about T-Mobile's COVID-19 response on T-Mobile.com.
And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renters insurance. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by HyperX. Unleash your style, unleash your fury with HyperX Fury Memory. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. After the rather sweaty map 1, Nepal awash with blood. And it was, of course, the Boston Uprising to take it away. But Matt, we talk about secret weapons quite often here, or sort of star players for many of these teams in space. Has been the kind of player that's been in the MVP candidate conversation many times before. His D.Va stats specifically have been very, very good.
Yep.
As a guy who really wants to lead the way for this team, he's had a little bit of a tough match early on, at least. We'll have to see if he can actually start to produce some more results, because after the Paris matchup, Matt, he actually sort of gave us a few thoughts on how they felt they were going to bounce back from that loss.
So the biggest thing we learned from our Paris loss is to make our practice more like our matches. We felt like when we played the match, it was a different tempo, different communication, and just different positioning altogether. So our goal this week is to make our match just like we did in practice. And that way we won't have any struggles coming into match day.
Matt, what do you think that Space means when he says we have to practice more like our matches? As if that's sort of not happening already?
Well, I do think sometimes it's difficult to create the same atmosphere of an actual match, especially when you're just scrimming.
Sure.
And I think it's even harder now because you're actually like in the same type of scenario where you're just kind of seated at your computer at home, where before it's really easy, I think, to kind of get juiced up to play a game, right? You know, when you're in front of the crowd at a home stand, etc. I think it could be a little bit odd now. So I think trying to get the tempo of like a live match back into your practice and then vice versa, like really kind of getting up for those games, because I think you know, time after time it could get almost like repetitive for the teams, right? Because you're scrimming a lot of these teams, you're playing them then during the week. You've had a lot of duplicate matchups against the same teams at this point. So it's just trying to prepare themselves for the later half of the season, make sure they're getting good practice and they can bring the things in practice into the actual games effectively.
Well, now we kind of know what Boston are made of, and you know, it might be a little bit of a honeymoon period in terms of, you know, teams tend to sort of trend upwards in performance sometimes after new additions are made to their rosters. But let's have a look at map 2 and see if they can duplicate, no pun intended, that performance that we saw earlier on. Hanamura will be our next map.
Teams definitely do see like an uptick, like when you bring in a new player. I think anyone who's played on a team like at a professional level,
why is that though?
Because sometimes you just need not like extra motivation, but it's just fun playing with a new teammate. Like it kind of sounds dumb, but like running through your strats, your call outs, playing games with them outside of you know, your scrims and whatever, just bringing in like new blood, like new life to a team, just lights a fire under everybody.
Well, Matt, if that's the case, I recommend removing Jaws from the raid party and getting a new monk officer. What do you think? Will that breathe new life into our raids?
No.
No, okay. He wouldn't be happy about that one at all. Let's jump in about number 2, ladies and gentlemen. And again, serious faces back on. Matt, I don't think that I have seen Fusions have such a, you know, a strong performance in quite some time. He was really appreciated by many when he first joined the league for his aggression and his, you know, understanding of the role. Little quiet recently, but he looks much better today.
How funny is it that, like, you know, when the team's doing good, it's like, yeah, we like how Fusions plays aggressive, and then when they do bad, they're like, oh, he's a little reckless.
Okay, what
like,
does that mean?
You can't give him love for the same thing that you're going to give him the hate for. I think it's just something that we need to be aware of for future in terms of like evaluation. Where I do think he's an extremely aggressive player, but like in the way that Bumper was extremely aggressive, right? Like when players play that reckless, you're gonna win and lose by if it works or if it doesn't. And I think you bring in Punk now, where it seems like Punk did a nice job of supporting him with that aggression. Because if everybody's not hitting W, then it doesn't really do much to go forward. We'll see Boston on offense, what they decide to run. Essentially.
What do you make of this, Matt? The Farah instead of maybe an Echo here on defense.
This is weird in the sense that like hit scan is so strong right now, whether it be a Widow, Ashe, McCree, that you decide to go with the Farah on D. This also probably tells you like they're not exactly I don't want to say like thrilled, but probably not as super confident in like playing around the Echo. So you can play around the Pharah, something Mir feels a little bit better on.
Well, the Uprising had the Lucio. The Gladiators didn't. The Uprising just speed themselves into position now. So they are set up to try and outmaneuver the Gladiators and sort of take the shortest route through the open to the point to make it kind of hard for Mira to get time to get that damage down.
Yeah, with the way that Boston is set up here, they're going to be able to get on the point and use that immortality field and just see if Jerry can get some shots in. And then you see that's why, I mean, you can't, like, Ash is so much even better at doing that than McCree is. It's just a huge pickoff at first. OG lands a shatter, but he's going to get taken out as Boston has a good chance of taking the point.
Looked like OG would actually hit the pillar on the side of the doorway, but Birdring comes in, the Ash play, it's filthy! Birdring finds himself 3, and the D.Va's going to be desuited, he'll drop low, but be happily brought back up, and the Gladiators celebrate a come from behind fight win off the back of some sharpshooting.
I mean, it's a shatter from OG and then Birdring with 3 is Mira will take out Jerry as he comes off the respawn. But I do think you have to be very careful because all it's going to take is like 1 or 2 shots from Jerry to get this pick onto Mira. Is that'll be Mira taking out Color Hex here at the gate. Because if you lose the Pharah, most likely you're going to lose the Mercy right after. We saw from Jerry's POV, as soon as he killed Mira, I mean, you had Paintbrush drop down to really low HP, like 20 HP.
Jerry maybe fancies himself a little bit more self-peel, maybe just wants the flash, or he's planning to play at a range on this McCree that's a little bit more suitable. We'll see. Birdring, by the way, no scope critical hits necessary. He was just hitting body shots, but he does so much damage per shot and had so much time to find kills that he dominated that last fight. Nano boost here. Myeonbong's going to lose that immortality field, so the Uprising kind of lose their protection as they try and barrel through once more. The Gladiators don't need the Lucio to match speed because they're already waiting to receive these unwelcome visitors.
Yeah, and both teams end up using the Nano, so you won't have that in this fight. But Halo's going to get closer and closer towards this sound barrier as a Rocket Barrage comes through. So just going to build up some more ultimates here. They end up using a Valkyrie out of this. Interesting. So when Birdring falls, I guess they feel like they're in a little bit of worry, even though Boston, I mean, they lose Jerry, they're not going to be able to push right in. This is actually really good for the Uprising now, Mitch. Look at this. They're going to have basically all 6 of their ultimates. No support ult available for the Glads.
Oh, Amplification Matrix pretty far back from the opening. Color Hex obviously is in no position to benefit from it, and he's trying to challenge an Echo Mercy, or Pharah Mercy combination, on his own. Myeonbong takes down OG though, and the Uprising have found the opening. Fusion sits on the point. Punk now on cleanup duty. He's going to deal with the rest of the back line. He'll get desuited for it, but he seems to be okay with that. Self-destruct, and he'll jump back in the mech and go once more. The Gladiators are trying to mount a comeback on the back of Mira, but he's too low to get anything done.
Yeah, and I think when you use both of those support ultimates for the Gladiators, it really gives you a tough position to fight from on the defensive end, as Mir now will switch over and play Echo. Paintbrush will play the Brigitte, so this will make the Echo a little bit stronger in terms of like a dive player, right? Just loading up the flankers with the armor. It's like a strategy a lot of teams employing when using dive, but Boston able to win that and hold on to sound barrier as well. That's pretty big. And now with Punk going over to Sigma, that tells you they want to play really like control-oriented up on the high ground here. Maybe try and get Jerry the bridge on McCree.
Fusions barrels himself through. Shatter, it's good. Paintbrush, OG knocked to the ground, and the former gets lit up by a fire strike. Now Jerry takes position behind that Reinhardt shield, trying to make something happen as Boston find yet another kill. Paintbrush is brought back, but the Gladiators are still working with only 5, and OG sheepishly tries to back away, but he is run down. Again, the Uprising use the Lucio speed to take the fight to the defenders, and the Gladiators now have a Brig and a D.Va to try and squeeze onto the point for some time, but fantastic shock trooper play there for the Uprising, Matt. The Gladiators, very little time to respond, even less time to get respawns back in. OG, cute shatter, tries to go the 180, finds Punk, but Color Hex painting the town red. And the Uprising have 2 minutes and 22 seconds to play with.
Boston's looked fantastic today. I don't know if you can pin it completely on like the addition of Punk. I think he's been very good. But they just look way more coordinated, way more decisive in what they want to do at certain points of the map and certain points of the game. Just way better compositions in terms of being able to switch and adjust when the Gladiators are pulling out different things. I think Boston definitely looks strong today, where the Gladiators, I'm interested what they're going to play here on offense, because he played the Pharah on D. you didn't really want to play the Echo at all until their point B, which Echo on the inside here on point B is pretty good. You combine it with a Brigitte, right? Can be very powerful, can get up to the high ground, do a lot of damage. Right now, they are showing potentially playing the Echo at the start. We'll see if they go Echo Ash, which is probably what Boston's going to be running on the D.
Yeah, I'd love to know what the decision-making is and what you value more in the Pharah as opposed to Echo, obviously, who can give you that extra, that main tank, but also the focusing beam to very quickly punish front lines. Fun fact for you, everybody at home, the Boston Uprising are yet to win a single assault map this year. They have struggled on it, and so far, though, they don't really look like their old selves at all. It is going to be the Ash and the Echo out of the doors here for the Boston Uprising. Punk again towards Sigma. The Gladiators, I'd like to see them reinvent the wheel, but it's probably unlikely.
And Boston, they will not play the Mercy on defense, which we saw from the Gladiators. And I like the Brigitte pick, and well, you won't see the Brigitte for that long as Birdring with his sick headshot takes out Halo. Now you can probably get a really fast take here for the Gladiators. I mean, that's massive. The armor packs that Brig can provide, whether it be on the point to the teammates, just the passive healing as well, making Echo very strong. It's a big loss early.
Punk's trying to play that off-angle Sigma, and he's honestly looking pretty good at it. It's hard for anyone of the Gladiators to focus on busting down with so much other threat being generated elsewhere for the Uprising.
I mean, they take out space, and they don't even get anywhere towards the point. As now Boston's back at full strength, they get their Brig back in play. So that pick from Birdring at the beginning goes for absolutely nothing.
That's gotta hurt. It's such, I mean, so good to pick off a Brigitte, especially with the amount of shielding and effective health she has with Inspire. Birdring now, not really going to be able to find picks in the same manner. Trying to work Punk down, but Punk just has a trove of resources for staving off hitscan-based damage. Kinetic Grasp, throw up a shield, throw an accretion in the mix if you need it. Now he's getting worked down, though. Punk will need healing, but yep, no one was there to help him. The rest of the Uprising were forced back, and they were split in two. Now Birdring gets to take a pretty comfortable position here in the foyer. And OG is getting rid of Color Hex in a very unconventional manner. The charge does connect, and now he's on the high ground. No one knows why OG's there. Only OG.
OG's like, if nobody else is going to get these final blows, I may as well take them. Now, Boston's going to come back and fight this bitch. They're going to Nano Fusion, send him into the point. He's got a Shatter. Just putting enough damage into OG to keep his shield up and force him back.
That's all it does, though. OG's getting healing.
But Boston's got some big ultimates coming back if they can get in it. I mean, they're going to have a Bob here, but
no
Mirror takes out Jerry. But it's going to be Color Hex sorting into Sigma as well. Yeah,
well, I mean, two Sigmas and a Reinhardt on the enemy team. You don't expect to hit a Shatter this time around, but the Gladiators here are able to take them down via other methods. Mirror again finds two, and he's looking extremely good on this Echo. Color Hex drops out of his own duplicate and hence is very vulnerable. The Gladiators do manage to bust their way through. We'll have a nice little 3-minute extension to hit point B. Plus, they'll have a Gravitic Flux and a Nano Boost online real soon.
Yeah, and they'll have a Bob as well. So you have Duplicate, Bob, Gravitic Flux, Nano Boost here for the Gladiators. And I think even more important than it was for Boston on their offense, to get the bridge here for the Ash for the Gladiators, especially when you have a Mercy pocket potentially as well, would be sick. I mean, you can put down so much damage then if you're Birdring.
Shatter is online for Fusions on the high ground. But he's just trying to make sure he can actually see around the corner or on the balcony so he's not caught by surprise. Bob, he's on his way in. Well, they're not going to be, they're going to be trying to gun each other down for the time being. What is this, Mafia Warfare? Color Hex removed by the focusing beam, though, of Mirror. And Birdring's Bob has been removed. The Uprising now sit a little bit safer with that extra player on their team, essentially. Mirror wants to try and use the most of Sigma's zone control while he can. Paintbrush is down, the Mercy's missing for the Gladiators, and Mirror's trying to get into the back. Gladi's put to sleep, though, out of Duplicate. Now with extra damage available, he gets into Fusions with the sticky bombs, but Myeonbong takes him down. Jerry now nano boosted on the point. The Uprising are able to push back here, and OG has to head for the hilts.
Which potentially that was looking like an extremely fast time for the Gladiators, which would have put them back on track in this series. But now Boston with that defensive hold, right? The clock's going to dwindle down. The Gladiators' next approach will probably be around, the same time that Boston has on the clock right now. A lot of time's going to wear off here. So it's a huge hold there from the Uprising.
As Jake pointed out, Matt, in the previous series, that the addition of Brick here gives you so much in terms of durability and also helps you react to a duplicated foe. You can get a quick stun and knock it back. Okay, Space goes for a Gravitic Flux here. So Punk is obviously the target, but he's able to kinetic grasp a lot of what would be incoming damage. Mira now is going to try and set up in a flanking position. If ground is given to him, Gravitic Flux and OG is low. He has to go for a shatter. It's perfect! Fusions and Halo, both bearing shields, are still knocked to the ground, but the Uprising crack back. It's the DPS that stands.
But what was even bigger than that is, so when Punk has the Gravitic Flux up in the air, and then he slams them down, it's a nice shatter by OG after. The issue is that Myeongbong hits a big biotic grenade, connects with 3 players from the Gladiators, and those are all the kills that they're able to get for the Boston Uprising. It's a big biotic grenade that turns the fight in their favor.
Jerry throws the dynamite in there just to get closer to his next Bob, who no doubt will appear with a flourish and help control some of this defensive space. Chaz has nano boost here. Mira cops a couple sticky bombs. Fire strike even through. There is a lot of poke damage here available to Boston. They're building ultimates in anticipation for what is a fight that the Gladiators kind of have to win if they want to stay competitive in this map. OG is given the high ground because of the nano boost here.
And the scary thing, I was gonna say, they finally get that bridge control for Birdring, and he dies to Color Hex. Color Hex coming in with the sticky bombs. Able to take him out. You get the res on the Birdring, so you bring him right back, but you've lost Mirror, which is a large source of damage, a lot of pressure to put on the back line, as now the Gladiators will have to back up and reset.
Matt, the Gladiators use a Resurrect, but can't actually keep a fight going off the back of it. It took them from 0 DPS players to 1. Not sufficient. Now, though, they're going to have another real crack at it. They're only really working with the Bob right now, and the Uprising have a trove of stored ultimates now to ration through to keep themselves healthy. There's the Bob, though. That's going to go to the point. Start the contest. It'll be a responsive one from Jerry now as well, as both Bobs try and whittle each other down. Mirror is missing. Jerry falls. Able to take down Birdring's Bob, should I say. And the Uprising, Matt, again, don't look like they're bothered.
No, and now that you lose Mirror and he's so close to duplicate, the only ultimate you can play around, you're forced to just back up. And you can see Fusions here, just using the shield, seeing around the corner. He's got a teammate kind of peeking it as well with Punk. You have ultimates here for Boston to potentially get a full hold on point B and win the map.
It'll be a very quick halftime if that was to be the case. And Gladiators clearly haven't been able to come up with an answer so far. And it's going to have to be here. 21 seconds remaining in the round, but look at the poke. Punk is just throwing hyperspheres in. The Gladiators forced to fight in close quarters right now, makes them extra susceptible to the bounce and AoE from Punk on Sigma. He's going to step back on the point now. Color Hex has gone down. It's an opening now for the Gladiators. Gravitic Flux throws them up. Punk gets us in on the high ground, but Fusions was knocked down and damaged very badly. Birdring pole position now, very safe, and just needs to unload damage into the back line of the Uprising. Punk down, Color Hex going to try and replace him. It's an extra Sigma brought into the game, but the accretion whizzes past Birdring, and he's still primed to rock some damage down. OG now moves to the point. He's got Nerve Shatter. It is good enough. Color Hex knocked down. Fusions tries to go for one of his own. It was both Sigmas falling foul of Shatters. Focusing beam from Mirror and Color Hex, but it's going to be Color Hex to fall a little bit later. The Gladiators now are in overtime, but they have the players, and they have themselves the points.
And that is, they finally got what I was talking about the entire time. If you can get the Ashe up on the high ground, and you can force the fights onto the point, and you have that Mercy damage boost on the Ashe on the high ground, it's devastating to deal with. And they're never able to get Birdring off of there. He's able to put down so much damage that his tanks are able to finish off these kills on the point. And the Gladiators are finally able to take. The issue for the Gladiators is they take it with no time left. The time bank, where Boston now will have 2 minutes and 22 to attack to potentially win the map. So best case for the Gladiators is you get a draw here, which just, I mean, it buys you some time, but still they don't look that good in this series, though.
They look a little lackadaisical, Matt. I mean, after that round, I can't blame their DPS players, Matt, because Mirror and Birdring are able to combine for more kills than Boston did over the course of this map so far. You know, they are finding those pickups. I think Myeongbong is being exceptionally effective on this Ana, Matt. You mentioned earlier on the biotic grenades turning these fights around, and the Gladiators had to be subject to a lot of AoE-based damage, right? Bionade, hyperspheres, sticky bombs. They had to walk through into all of it, whereas the Uprising were able to take high ground control on their attacks so fast, the Gladiators never had a chance to really chunk them down.
Yeah, and the Gladiators decided instead of going with the Reinhardt and the D.Va, or a double shield with the Raiden and the Sigma on D, they're going to go Winston D.Va. So this will give them more pressure for the backline of Boston. It will allow Boston to get more control of the choke at times, though.
It's risky, Matt, but they're playing for the draw at the moment.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, I mean, that's all you can do, right?
Halo takes a little bit of early damage. Mira is just using a keyhole to shoot through on the side of that roof. And the Gladiators, they play forward. They catch the Uprising by surprise.
And if you're Boston, I probably consider a type of switch here.
To what?
You could go Brig Lucio. I think adding the Brig here would be massive. But with Brig Lucio, you don't have a ton of healing to deal with like the damage of the Pharah, right? And your Baptiste is able to build up the amp matrix so fast. That would be the reason you wouldn't switch off of this. But I think their issue is like when you get this amp matrix, Mirror's just going to kite it. Like you're not going to be able to get a great value out of it, probably just for healing.
Yeah, and he's not going to give Jerry a clean shot on him, is Mirror. Going to sit above the rooftops and just wait. Now the Uprising again, so okay, they take some ground here. Now they can try and make their way to the point on such a route that sort of exposes them to the least amount of poke damage. That's the plan.
Like right goes here, you use the M matrix, you get no value out of it.
No, it was just, I think it was just to force the Gladiators away, Matt, so they could get across that overpass without taking a ton of damage, or at least that's how it ended up working. But Jerry's gone back around, get some pressure on Mirror, not able to find a kill.
He's just looking for an angle. Color Hex here now is cut behind. Let's see if he can get a kill on OG. They're trying to burst OG down.
OG, great timing on the jump there, avoids most of the sticky bombs, and Myeonbong's immortality field is down, but Color Hex gets Mirror. Focusing beam deals with the Pharah in space. Oh, he's off the map. This is a disaster for the Gladiators now, and Color Hex can easily make his way back into the fight. Birdreach just got a face full of sticky bombs, but he's able to get rid of Myeonbong with the dynamite, and Color Hex has to hit the panic button. He copies the Winston now, but the rest of his team already gone. And he comes out of duplicate and gets a face full of rockets.
Yes, everything falls apart there for the Uprising after they get, one or two pickoffs where they may not make it back. His Fusions, he'll just get in, he'll do the Wrecking Ball stall here, just getting on the point, but it's still not looking good.
Oh, no, not at all. The Uprising run out of steam after bulldozing through on their first attack. The Gladiators played what looked like a riskier comp, the Winston-based dive defense, but it looks so good. They're going to come back with a sound barrier, though. It ain't over yet. Color Hex needs to get some damage done while he's still durable because Punk is being accosted by everybody in the corner.
Fusions is back as well.
Huge boot. A Bionic Grenade's going to be used here on Fusions and Halo, but they're able to shrug it off for the most part. It's going to be a self-destruct from space, and OG finds Halo. Now he's going to be looking for the Echo. Tries to chase Color Hex down, but can't reach, and Myeonbong keeps the Echo alive. OG again sticky bombed. Jerry off the point. Finds the kill on Birdring. That could be the switch, but he can't touch in time. Jerry positioned to save the day, but it will be a draw, and the Uprising pushed off at the point at the last few seconds.
That got close at the end. Like it looked like the Fusion's Wrecking Ball stall that's able to allow Punk to get in, and then Halo also had a sound barrier coming on through, and a kill from Punk on the Bird Ring, a shot or two from Jerry, and it made it very interesting there at the end. But the Gladiators, they play a little bit more aggressive on defense, this time with their tanks, with the Winston and the D.Va, and they're able to get a hold.
Now, OG turns around with 9 final blows in that round, many of them coming after he switched towards that Winston, and it made all the difference. And they were playing for the draw, the Gladiators. That was the only option that they really had, but they looked much better with that composition. And this is a question we have to ask. Do the Gladiators prefer to play that Winston style? Is this hero pool just not conducive to compositions that they feel comfortable on, Matt?
We've seen the Winston be pretty powerful in a lot of other compositions in NA and other regions as well.
Sure.
It'll be interesting if after halftime they go more on the aggression and really put the pressure on Boston.
Well, keep your eyes peeled for that, ladies and gentlemen. In the meantime, we're going to now head to our game break and have our experts break down this absolute brawl, this tussle of a match.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by ZipChair Gaming, the official chair supplier of the Overwatch League, and by TeamSpeak, the official voice supplier of the Overwatch League.
What's up, everyone? This is our game break presented by Pringles Wavy. My name is Zoe. Joining me are Costa as well as Reinforce. And currently, Boston Uprising is actually leading 1-0. I believe everyone but Kat Bren didn't really see that coming. Ridiculous. I hope he's wrong in the end. Not because I don't want Boston to win, but I just don't want Bren.
Can't lose to Kat Bren.
Right?
Yeah,
I don't think I can actually
Poor
deal
Bren.
with that because we would not hear the end of it. However, we do need to talk about what just went down. Let's start with map number 1. Costa, it feels to me like Boston really likes this hero pool. They look very, very good.
Yeah, they seem to be meshing really well in this hero pool. I think, obviously, Punk coming in, I think he's playing really well. But you got to look at all the other pieces as well that we haven't been as impressed with throughout the season, actually really stepping it up. We have Color Hex on this Echo, and he looks really clean. He's I would say he's outplaying Mirror almost certainly. And then we have Jerry just doing Jerry things. Keep it up, buddy. And then we have Myunbong, who is definitely the star of the show right now for this Boston Uprising team. He's been hitting sleep after sleep, nade after nade, and it's not even the Gladiators playing super poorly. It's more Boston Uprising playing really well, which we have. Oh, really, Johnny? I think you got to give this one to Boston.
Yeah, I mean, you can give some of it to Boston. I do think Boston are playing well, and that's something you haven't heard me say for a very long time. So yeah, I am giving Boston some credit, because I do think they played well. They look like they have better combinations with their abilities. Myunbong is doing a fantastic job. He's been a standout player for me so far. And Fusions is arguably even outplaying OG. Something we definitely did not expect. So
Yeah.
this is unironically a pretty good hero pool for the Boston Uprising. There's a lot of heroes here where they're playing their comfort picks, and it shows because they're actually combining some of these abilities. So I will give some credit to the Boston Uprising, but you have to question some of the stuff that the Los Angeles Gladiators did. I don't like how they've been slowing down the game when so far this season we've seen the Gladiators be pretty aggressive at times. I know that OG likes to be aggressive, and certainly slowing down the tempo with the Mercy is something that I do not really agree with. I think that playing that Mercy on point B of Hanamura on the offense actually hurt the Gladiators a little bit, and it makes it harder for OG as well. So not a huge fan of what the Gladiators are doing, but the Boston Uprising, they're playing well too.
How does that Mercy even fit in? Like, what do you guys reckon is the game plan behind that Mercy? Or is this more of it's paintbrush's comfort kind of thing?
I would say it's more likely to enable the Echo and the Ashe, both characters that thrive when they have a Mercy pocket for the damage boost and the constant healing. But as Johnny said, they're taking out the Brig, which adds a lot of health and survivability to the front line of the Gladiators, and that's where I think they're struggling. OG and Space are trying to move forward and make plays, but they just can't get anywhere. There's just too much damage out and not enough sustainability from the Gladiator support line. So I would really hope in the future that they don't get too cute with it. Just mirror the matchup. I think they can win.
I will say the Mercy
In
could
the future,
work
like
on
second
some
half.
maps, but specifically on point B Hanamura, it's hard to play that Mercy because the gaps are so close. So the Mercy can work with this composition, but not on point B of Hanamura. That's sort of where I disagree.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what they have in store for us on that second half. For now, we're going to take a look at our crunch time presented by Pringles Wavy. And of course, we have to shine a spotlight onto one of the newest additions, Punk. Just been signed by Boston already in our crunch time.
So this was a really cool play actually from the Boston Uprising, and so they're taking the high ground here on point B of Hanamura, and it's hard, right? It's hard to take this high ground when you're being contested, but Punk throws a rock on OG that sets Fusion up for the Earthshatter, which was a really cool play. You would expect Jerry to come in clutch here with the flashbang and actually flash Fusions, but Space had him covered with the defense matrix. So to work around Space's defense matrix, they opt for the big accretion from Sigma instead, and it's a really nice combo. So they're covering all their angles. Jerry could flashbang for the shatter, but in this case, Punk works around the Gladiators team to hit that rock and ensure you land that shatter, and then you sleep Space as a result of that. So that's a great play from the Boston Uprising. Really enjoyed seeing this from them.
Yeah, and I think this is really what Punk has added to this team in this match, is he's willing to play aggressive and hold the space and make plays, which we haven't really seen a lot from the Boston Uprising, and something that I've hit them on before. So it's a great debut from Punky, obviously great Australian player, and really showing his worth in this team so far.
Well, coming into today's matches in our pre-show, we did discuss where can we rate the Gladiators, or how can we rank the Gladiators, since they haven't been able to really take off the W's from the higher seeded teams. But now if they fall to the Boston Uprising, where do you put them?
Oh boy.
Force?
I mean, if you lose to Boston here, I still think the Gladiators are a great team. Maybe you have an off week, and losing to Boston Uprising is obviously not a good thing, but I still think Gladiators, even if they lost here, they're still a middle-of-the-pack kind of team. I think they've been inching closer to the top pack as of recent, but obviously with a loss here, I think you have to put them somewhere in like the 10 to 12 kind of region. Combined, that is all teams, but for North America specifically, maybe among the Valiants, etc., I would say.
Right. Well, let's see where they will end up. Let's see if Brencat, in fact, made a correct prediction. All of that and more we'll find out very soon as we're heading into the second half between those two phenomenal teams. And for all the action, we once more heading it over back to Mr. X and Uber.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles Wavy. Big crunch, big flavor. Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, after our game break, and interesting to hear from some of our experts, Matt, especially pointing out that this hero pool definitely seems to be conducive to Boston Uprising's comfort heroes. They just look to be very consistent and cohesive when they're playing this kind of composition. So that should definitely be a good sign for them going forward, even though they failed to get the win on Hanamura.
Right, I think I was talking about it a little bit after map 1, where you can take color hex off of May, where he hasn't had tremendous performances throughout the season.
Yeah.
You can put him on the Echo, which he looks better on. Jerry's now free to play the McCree or the Ashe, Widowmaker, whichever one. And then Punk has inserted himself and made a difference in the lineup in the off-tank role. So I would definitely agree with him that this is a good hero pool for the Boston Uprising.
I like that, you know, right at the start of the series, Matt, they were able to sort of mix Zarya play in with their strategy. You know, like we've seen teams try the Zarya, they dabble with it. I know that the Defiant like to use it a lot with Doomfist comps, but this was actually just to really back Fusion's up. And it reminds me of Fusion's real heyday as a competitor in Reinhardt when Goats was the meta that was played, right? It was always Zarya and Reinhardt together. That looked to be where he was confident enough to unleash a bit more of that aggression. Now, as we head into our next map, though, Matthew, Gibraltar, do you expect to see big compositional changes here? The Farah Mercy, instead of the sort of Echo play here from the Gladiators, has definitely been drawing some raised eyebrows.
I think if anything you see change here is maybe you see some Winston D.Va, as Gibraltar has a ton of verticality where Winston D.Va can obviously access all of that. Where the damage dealers, I feel like, maybe we see you know, some Widowmaker, a little bit more Widowmaker, but I really think you'll see, like, you know, Ashe, Echo, McCree. I think they're kind of staples right now, unless the team wanted to run like a full, you know, Sombra type of dive, right, where you ran like Sombra Echo and you played the Winston.
And it does look like the Gladiators are getting serious, Matt, because Big Goose is back in the lineup now. Paintbrush has been substituted out. I don't really feel like we have much negative to say about Paintbrush. He looked entirely serviceable in the support role so far.
And really, with the supports, you're looking for, like, is their ult timing right? Are they in position? Are they not dying first? I mean, Paintbrush played perfectly fine. I don't really think there's much to take away from this other than they probably want a Big Goose back in.
Yep, that's right. Big Goose returns and Nolan Duck is out for the time being. Matt, we've seen a bit of Sombra play still in that Asian region. We might see it here as well. With Birdring on that pick to try and shut down Echo play. Something interesting, though, and I actually read this. Emerald Gal's a writer for the Overwatch League. Her Gravbag gives a lot of really interesting stats. And she pointed out that last week when Mira tried to play the Sombra, he had the most enemies hacked per 10 at 31, but the most deaths out of every Sombra player in the league that week with 4.9 per 10. So super aggressive, getting a lot of hacks, but just dying a lot. And that was in that matchup against the Eternal.
Yeah, Sombra, sometimes you feel like you have an extra second or two to stay in and maybe get some more damage down, get another hack off or two, but you get burst down pretty quick as Jerry's sent that for a whirl here, so we are fixated on it now.
I am, I'm hypnotized, Jerry.
Yeah, as both teams looked out, they were going to start with the Winston D.Va. It'll be no, Boston goes back to it, so they'll go with Winston D.Va. So this is kind of what I was talking about. Gibraltar is a map that's really good for dive tanks, tanks with mobility, just to be able to access the high ground. It's almost a must.
Big question, can Birdring Sombra shut down this quasi-dive? It doesn't feature Echo, so maybe the Gladiators make a switch there to something more suitable if they can, or when they can. But the Uprising are making slow progress here, but they're not being challenged. It's not a full commitment by the Gladiators yet. They're jostling for position on this high ground, and we might eventually see a switch flipped here for the Gladiators. The space goes dangerously low. Birdring is down.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you get that kill on a Birdring, that's massive. The Gladiators, they get the card exactly where they want it, right? They want to stop them right underneath where this bridge is and play the defense from here. You control the high ground, you control the choke. But you lose your Sombra, which is your main initiator here, so we'll see if Boston can take advantage of the space.
Dangerous for the Gladiator. Sombra has returned, and Nano Boost now for OG as he heads into the server room, and Color Hex just gets electrified. And now, this is exactly where you want to be as the Winston, Matt. OG controlling space very well. There will be Bob. On the sound of it, Jerry's going to get taken down by Big Goose awfully earlier on in that fight, and Mirror's focusing beam removes Halo. The Gladiators are stabilized here. And Matt, it really starts with OG getting nano boosted, going into close quarters with the Tesla cannon.
Oh yeah, I mean, he knew exactly where they were going, right into the server room. This Punk, welcome to the Overwatch League.
Exactly. Great Aussie battler. Now you're doing it tough like every other off tank.
Well, you know, when he gets an nano boost, though, he gets so much value, right? So much damage, like pushing them in towards the server room. He has a primal rage at the end. It doesn't make like a huge impact, but a really nice play from OG. Able to use the effects of the nano boost. Being able to win that fight for the Glads.
Nano boost here for Myeongbong, so the Uprising could try and do what the Gladiators did, and yep, get their Winston, charged up and in, but Mira duplicates and Winston himself, and Halo can't protect himself. Even the shield he carries doesn't keep him alive. Jerry at great risk of being knocked off of the edge, and Mira seems determined to make that a reality. At least zoning him out here for free seems pretty darn good. But on the other side of the fight, OG was burnt down by Colorhex's focusing beam, and Jerry's now able to find Mira as he's airborne. The second Mira gave Jerry some room to breathe. He was punished.
But Boston can't get like over anxious with this. They can't just run in because they're going to have the EMP to be able to use here, the Gladiators, to still win this fight. So COG just getting towards the high ground. That'll be the EMP. Connects with both tanks, so you're going to lose both tanks here potentially for the Uprising.
Primal Rage was available for Fusions, but he never had a chance to use it in the context that he would have liked. Still, Mirror is down. Punk recovers from being hacked and chases down the Echo. Halo behind the payload. Shield is up. Bob takes the brunt of the self-destruct damage, but the Boston Uprising are still fighting. OG down. Jerry gets rid of him with the Bob. Halo is in a mess right now. Of course, Colorhex copying the brick. There's two maces to the faces. That's just wrong. The amount of Inspire procs right now that are going off allows Boston Uprising to out-heal the damage output of the Gladiators.
And Halo's rally at the beginning after the EMP was massive. Although they do lose Fusions, it's enough to keep Punk up, and Punk is able to pick up a kill. You get Colorhex to turn into Brig as well. Everybody's happy with more Brigitas out there as they're able to take the point. Hog champ. That's all the people wanted. Why have 2 Brigs when you can have potentially up to 4?
Fusions throws his dome there on top of the shuttle as Punk just ushers it forward on the low ground. Space eventually catches wind of this. Steps down to challenge him. Only briefly though. Jerry wants to go to Space on that shuttle, but he's going to need his team to get in there. Fusions is a little low, but this time he will have a chance to use that Primal Rage. Jerry's still safe. Bob, oh, that's clever placement as well. Look at that, Bob goes straight into the back corner of the Dynamite. Oh my. Yep, the Gladiators look a little bit singed right now, and Shaz gets chased into the corner by Punk. The honor is down, and the Gladiators, they are struggling. They'll send Space to try and stall the cart for a little while, but it just won't be enough.
Yeah, really nice use of the Bob there from Jerry, as one of the ones we haven't really seen a lot, right? He just kind of runs in that straight line. It's enough fall off for where he lands on top of that platform. And I believe he actually gets put to sleep by Shaz, but when the dive comes in from Fusions, they can't just not attack. And the only people there are the Ana and the Brig. The Brig swings in an AoE, obviously you can't control it, and it wakes the Bob back up.
Jerry getting pushed back now. Both Winstons throw their barriers down. Halo narrowly avoids getting blown up by that Dynamite, and Birdring is down.
Again.
Jerry picks him. Fusions actually pushes the Gladiators into a position where they're not going to get blown up, so maybe a little bit of a non-bow there. But Mira still goes down to Colorhex, both DPS on the Uprising, delivering results. OG tried to jump away, but he got interrupted by a coach gun, knocked into the wall and didn't get the distance he wanted. Now he's not going to be allowed to escape. Jerry pushes forward. The Uprising bare their fangs, and it's ferocious. Colorhex slapping Shaz around, letting him know who's boss, and immediately comes out into Echo and focus beams OG to such a low point, but Mira catches Colorhex around the corner.
And I tell you what, that could have been a fight that Boston wins. Jerry throws a really nicely placed Dynamite, which would have connected with everybody as they're going into the left room, but he actually just didn't have another shot to kill the Dynamite. And then the Dynamite just goes so far away that you got nothing out of it, that the extra ticking damage there may have been what would have been enough to force Boston over the top in that fight.
You could consider it as something that it effectively negates Inspire healing from a Brigitte, right?
Almost,
it can match it at the very least. Oh, okay, it's a duplicated Reinhardt here. And that's where Mira wanted to be. Good disengage from the Uprising. Despite not having a Lucio, they're able to back away and make that ultimate pretty much pointless. Good shadow block by Fusions, and that was wishful thinking.
Oh, well, Mira just had to use it. I mean, if you get shattered from that,
you're feeling it.
Yeah, I mean, that's no good. As that'll be a Bob from both teams, as OG's put to sleep at the beginning of the fight.
In the back line, you can see that Jerry a little bit low here. His Bob has been removed. Good biotic grenade from Myeonbong, though, forces Space away. Colorhex tried to pressure him further around the corner, but both teams were essentially going to be full health for this next trade. Fusion's Fire Strike eaten up. Wants to get some hammer kill on a Space if he can, but he gets burst very low and can't escape. Mira, though, goes down. Colorhex finds him from a safe distance.
That was so weird there from Boston. Like, what they want to do, like, they want to have Fusion sit on the cart and obviously heal him up and just force the fight from the Gladiators down onto the objective. But if Fusion steps up to the cart, he's taking damage, he's got OG there, he's swinging, and he didn't get healed at all. They just kind of let him fall over and die. So that Boston kind of got what they wanted. Like, they just want to catch OG staying down for too long on Fusions, maybe get a bash, and then just load a bunch of damage into him.
38 seconds on the clock here. Duplicate up for Color Hex once more. Nano boost for Shaz, surely to OG to help him get that next Primal Rage. Yeah, in he goes. Okay, Nano boost on Color Hex, but he's put to sleep. Shaz cuts that sentence short, and it's an easy pick-off as Color Hex was down well and truly in enemy territory. OG gets plenty of value, and now Primal Rage late in the fight to further stagger and punish the Uprising. They're split apart. Myeonbong can't even get back in his spawn. Micro Rockets around the corner. Desperate defense matrix being employed by Punk to keep him up. It works, but the Uprising have 5 seconds left to make something happen, Matt.
Yeah, as they're trying to get back towards the cart. Desperately, Punk is not going to make it. Neither does Halo. As that is where the progress will stop for the Boston Uprising. Good hold on point C for the Gladiators. And I'm actually really confused why Color Hex, when he was on the high ground and he was able to see OG through, didn't just duplicate him and just dive into the backline. You would have been able to split off 2 to 3 players from the Gladiators. At that point, the Gladiators were already pushing into you, right? So you split the team literally in half. You would have probably got a Primal out of it as well for Color Hex, which could have been potentially a game changer there. But he actually never gets a use of the duplicate off.
I mentioned before this game just how much Fusions was benefiting in the past from sort of Punk shielding him on Xayah and enabling him to do work. The same's happening on the side of the Gladiators. Shaz's Ana is giving OG the ability to play super aggressive. A lot of nano boosts are coming up. OG is topping the leaderboard now in final blows for his team. The Winston play looks extremely clean, and that was a big part of what slowed down the Uprising. I mean, when you can play that sort of off angle up on the high ground, the left-hand side or the right-hand side if you're approaching as the Uprising, it's really hard to deal with. You drop down, do damage, and just jump away.
And what I'm looking at for the Gladiators here on offense is, do they get good value out of this Sombra, right? Like they seemed like they were doing a good job once they started to match the Boston Uprising. The Sombra was not extremely impactful on their first point defense.
No. But then again, the composition that the Uprising were using wasn't one that was trying to do what Sombra was hoping they were going to do. They weren't really fully committing to dives. They were playing poke. This time, the Gladiators, they still want to shut down any preemptive defensive dives, and it's not a terrible idea now as Boston haven't gone for a Reinhardt tank. Birdering has to be careful. It was almost revealed there. Butting heads with Myeonbong. And here's the dive. Okay, so the Gladiators want to start off the fight here. Maybe they bait a counter dive from the Uprising. Birdring is down, though.
Yeah, I mean, he dies. It looks like an assist there from the Ana. And you don't know if he was slept, didn't get a chance to see it. But yeah, the Birdring's going to switch right away. Probably not going to get a ton of value out of the Sombra here. So he's going to go with McCree, which they're going to have to try and force this high ground, the Gladiators, because he's not going to be able to outrange the Ashe of Jerry.
Jerry is forced down, so OG is paving the way now for the rest of his team to advance. Mira playing very safe and still hit by a biotic grenade over the top. And it will be slow and steady. Birdring wants to encircle here and use that server room, and multiple off angles are trying to be set up here by the Gladiators now. They want to force a mistake from the Uprising.
You see how cautious he has to be because of Jerry up on the high ground as OG gets the nano boost, goes up to the high ground, and look at this. You're able to go right through. Actually, no, they saved the nano boost. Sorry, yeah. It looked like potentially they were going to use it, yeah.
Mira, focusing beam, looking to make something happen on the cart. This is where the Uprising need to spring into action, but it's OG actually leaping forward. Punk down to the Primal Rage, and OG continuing to do some serious lifting for the Gladiators. Great zone control. There was no way the Uprising could move through that doorway to contest.
No, as soon as OG jumps up and gets that high ground for them, they're able to have Birdring come out of the server room and actually start to do stuff on the McCree, because when we're on board with him, he's just kind of peeking back and forth, back and forth. He knows he can't peek it because of Jerry up on the high ground, and then when OG jumps up there, forces him back, then Birdring can come around and start laying down that damage, that medium range like McCree's great at.
Next order of business for the Gladiators is to control the top of the shuttle. And they were kind of prevented from doing that. They weren't able to join OG there as quickly as he would have liked, so now they'll try and force, instead, the Uprising to come down to them. Maybe go for a counter dive here. No. They again start the fight. Pressure now inside the shuttle as OG operates as the doorman. Operates on the left-hand side now, a tickle to fusions, and then a departure.
The Bob's in the back line as Fusions goes in using the Primal Rage, and they're going to be able to get Fusions out alive. So the Bob this time actually gets value, but the Gladiators still want to fight this. They nano boost Mirror here, just trying to put down some more damage as Color X with the duplicate onto the McCree buys him some time with a Deadeye.
Yeah, curious, isn't it? Essentially, going for a Deadeye, hoping for some value. There was a D.Va still in play, but because the Gladiators don't get the top of the shuttle controlled, Jerry sits there plinking away on the rifle.
You know, I feel like Ashe, especially on a point like this, there's just a lot of advantages to it over the McCree.
Yep.
Birdring does have a Deadeye now, but just being able to lock down that high ground and just being able to outrange Birdring. And I think Birdring, like, you would potentially think of like playing like a Widowmaker here or something like that, right? But it's such an easy dive target with nothing really to help you out. No peel in terms of supports.
Oh my!
Oh, deleted!
Hello, Jerry! Well, bits of him anyway, ones that are left inside the shuttle phase, get sent flying, essentially.
Well,
nicely done, and that one kill pretty much ends the fight.
That fight started, and then it ended. That was extremely fast, as you see how Echo can just blow people up, where the beam does so much damage below the 50%. You see how much health that Mir has, by the way? They're just stacking him up with the armor packs, getting him to 300 HP, which makes him even more, he's so difficult to deal with.
OG now, yeah, very quickly able to burst Myeongbong down. He wasn't ready for it, and a nano-boosted Winston is going to make short work of Zenyatta. 3 minutes.
Primal at the door, too.
And there's a lot of time here on the clock, mate. There is so much time. We'll see now the Gladiators set up on the high ground. And they will be very close to key ultimates, mainly the Primal Rage. And OG lets it go straight away. Focusing beam for Mirror from a safe angle. Just playing up, trying to pressure the healing of the Uprising as much as they can. Boston go for a rally here. And Miro trying to command the high ground now, drops back. It's going to be a self-destruct. Winston Bubble is enough to protect them.
And that'll buy Boston some space. So they're going to get some space around the cart on the corner here as Jerry's got his Bob. It's got to be a good one.
Mira going in, duplicates a D.Va here. Extra durability is the order of the day for the Los Angeles Gladiators. Defense Matrix helps stave up a lot of incidental damage, but eventually Mira has to commit. Taking out a duplicate, but not dead. I mean, the extra durability you get from another hero's health pool is insane with Echo. Birdring though, pressure down hard. Fusion's doing a good OG impression, finding 2 kills alone with the Discord Orb help. And now Space will be desuited as well. Boston also look comfortable in a position where they can engage on the high ground with their Winston.
Yeah, Myeongbong uses his Transcendence towards the end there because obviously any type of distance on the card here would have won it for the Gladiators, but it's really this end. Obviously the support ult is fantastic, but the extra damage, that's what they've needed with this Zenyatta in play. Getting that damage on the Discord is Space needs some quick armor packs to heal him up from getting hit with that dynamite. Is Birdring, double hit scan now.
Why against Dive?
Interesting. Birdring is going to play the Ashe. Now Mirror's going to play the McCree. As this, you just got to try and burst down the tanks.
Jerry forced back here. OG, this is the definition of creating space, but he's deep in enemy territory. He's able to get away. He had to prop Primal Rage. I don't think he wanted to use it there, but stay alive is even more important. Even that, though, proved to be too difficult. And the Uprising, again, get a chance to breathe. Matt, why do you want hitscan heroes with low mobility against this aggressive defensive dive?
And especially because, like, the McCree still has the issue of, one, being a dive target, although you do have the Brig and the Ana protect him, but also he can't outrange the Ashe. Now Mirror goes back to Echo here, as you're going to just play the Mirror, as you gave up ult charge for Mirror potentially, you know, down the line, right? Which, with a minute 30 on the clock, could have led to another Echo ult, which is so strong. It's a very odd, just really quick switch.
The Gladiators look a little frantic right now. They need to find a result in this fight. OG is already down though, and what point is there continuing here? Sounds a little bit doom and gloom, but OG's definitely been leading the way here on that win.
You have to wait for OG. You're way behind in some big key ultimates here. You'll have both support ultimates, which is big, but Jerry will have a Bob to stall it out. Looks like you're going to go for a nano boost on a Mirror potentially, but oh yeah, it hit him. For a second, I thought it got the break right in front of him, but you lose Big Goose anyway.
That was the visual update to Ana, making sure that you do connect on your nano boost, Matt. You don't play sports, so I don't expect you to know that.
I've never played sports.
Down to Jerry. So it's a trade here. Jerry needs to be dealt with, but OG's able to find Color Hex, and that's 1 DPS down. Not a bad start, but the Gladiators can't afford to take their feet off the gas. Bob got put to sleep, and the Gladiators still opt to step back and give time for the Uprising to get reinforcements.
So you held on to rally, you have Bob, you're going to get a duplicate here, though, for the Glad. So you do have some ultimates to be able to get this over the line. Where this is your, I mean, you have to win this fight. You have ultimates. Boston has nothing currently. They will probably get a duplicate out of this, but it's going to be close.
Now or never, Bobs go in. Fusion's got hit with the knock up there. I don't know how he managed to stay alive through that. That's astounding. Halo a little bit too far forward, and Birdwig's able to find 2 kills with that Bob alone. The Uprising were clumped together, but that turned out to be their undoing. And the Gladiators, at the final opportunity, are able to push through Gibraltar on a corner that is feared by many offensive teams, and finally break the streak. They're going to get themselves a map win.
It got scary there at the end, though. I mean, from the standpoint that it comes down to a final fight. You needed really a fight that was so heavily favored for you to be able to get it over the line. Although you mentioned it is a very difficult corner to get the payload around. Still, you know, they have the 3 ultimates at the end. Boston has nothing. You're able to get that fight win, but still not super convincing from the Gladiators, which I think it's I think it says more to the fact that we think this team can be so good and that the pieces are so strong that we want to see them perform at a higher level than really being kind of like disappointed in their play today overall.
Look, Jerry, very impressive performance on the Ashe across that map, even if it was one that they lost in the end. Almost 40% of his team's overall damage came from that particular pick. And again, with the Brigitte in play, Ashe gets an extra layer of protection. We'll see if we get any more of that action as we come back from the break, ladies and gentlemen. We will be heading into Blizzard World. So stick around, much more of this match to go, and it is well worth watching.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, helping you stay connected to what matters most. Learn about T-Mobile's COVID-19 response on T-Mobile.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Overwatch League. And yes, this series is starting to get mighty interesting. We've already seen these two teams, the Uprising and the Gladiators, go head-to-head on a number of maps, and all of them have been close, Matt.
Yeah.
That one being no exception. Now with a 1-1 scoreline in the series, we still need one team needs to get 2 more wins here. So many more maps to come, and Blizzard World is coming up next.
Yeah, and I think you can play a lot of the same compositions you played on Gibraltar on Blizzard World. I think on offense specifically, you know, when we get into the second phase of the map, there's a lot of verticality, potentially, you know, Winston D.Va there. But I do think point A probably still see some Reinhardt. You can still play the Reinhardt on the point, maybe double shield. Ashe still very good here on Blizzard World to control high grounds all throughout the map pretty much. So I expect to see a lot of Ashe. But I think Boston, they played very strong today. I think the new addition of Punk's definitely made a difference. I think the hero pool as well has suited Boston greatly. And I think now that we see the Gladiators back in with Big Goose, where they win that map there, they had the draw and the loss in the first half of the series. I think we'll now really see what the Gladiators are made of.
Yeah, I think they managed to make a recovery in that previous map against Jerry's Ashe. It wasn't easy for them. I think there's no doubt about that. But it's interesting now with the unavailability of Moira, Orisa, and Mei in the hero pool. You're actually not just getting dive. You're getting a decent mix of double shield compositions. You're getting a lot more hit scan inclusion, even though D.Va is still in the pool and is able to shut down a lot of that damage with Defense Matrix. So this is one of the more interesting weeks of hero pools, I'd say.
It's not really like the thing is it's not really like a Orisa that kind of pushes Winston or Dive out of the pool. In a way, it's kind of Mei at being able to split and isolate and then run down and barrel with the Reinhardt. That's where Winston kind of really suffers the worst. So I think any week you see that Mei is out, I think you'll probably see a lot of diversity in terms of the tanks, because you can play dive, you can play double shield. It's a lot of different options when Mei's out of the picture. Also, it does help that Orisa is out, right? Orisa pairs really well with Sigma. We've seen some Rein Sigma, but not an overwhelming amount. Where when you have the Orisa plus the Sigma, it's really good with the Hall Decretion combos, incredible shield uptime. That's where you see double shield strength really lie.
Okay, another Sombra pick here from Birdring. The Sombra hasn't looked good, I'll be honest, in either Birdring or Mira's hands over the last couple of weeks. There were very good things about Mira's Sombra play, but also a lot of things that negated it last week in terms of, obviously being quite fallible and dying a little bit early. So, again, Jerry wants to play the Ashe here. It stands to reason. It looked very good. And the Uprising aren't going to be playing a dive setup here. So, where does the Sombra get value?
Well, let's see. Jerry may go back and... I thought he was going to switch, potentially go to, like, McCree.
They are scouting, yeah.
Because the McCree would be better to deal with what the Gladiators are throwing out than the Ashe here. So, yep. You don't have to worry about being outranged here because they're just playing the Echo and whatnot. But they do have the Torbjorn, where Torb is good against...
Tracer and Sombra.
Yeah, Tracer, Sombra. He's good against Dive. It does look like a bit memey, like coming in and playing the Torb on offense, but Torb on offense has risen in popularity throughout the Overwatch League.
I mean, we'll have more time to discuss it, I'm pretty sure, in between lulls here, but the Uprising have been able to make a lot of progress here. It's a little bit dangerous for the Gladiators to try and dive this as well. Winston just gets blown up by the Torb if he's not careful. The Ribbon right click is punishing. Jerry takes half of his health in damage, but is able to drop down, and Colorhex goes for a little bit of a supercharge here. Somehow Birdring is able to stand there for a long period of time and just work Punk down in a hack on fusions. This is looking bad for the Uprising. Big bardic grenade there from Shaz.
Yeah, what Boston was trying to do is if you can get set up around the Torb turret in the McCree, potentially, I mean, ideally up on like one of these high grounds, you can start to really make a dent in the Gladiators' defense, because they can't dive that. You can't dive into Brig, Rhine, Torb, McCree. It's just not really possible. So what the Gladiators would have to do there is like hide, give up map positioning. They would take tons of poke damage. You wouldn't be able to get like a big EMP off unless Boston came into the point and started to attack. So see, now what the Gladiators are going to try and do here on D is maybe get an early EMP to set up a big dive.
Even an EMP is going to shut down a turret, whether it's been used or not. That's a little bit of a bonus for Birdring. That's the EMP fusions. Yeah, he just disintegrated there. Yeah. Not even, you can't even find him there with nuclear tracing. He's just gone. And that's it. That's all you want to do. Hit the front line with that EMP, Matt, and just get that shield out of the game.
Yep, you hit 3 players. As soon as Fusions loses his shield and he's standing there, he's taken out relatively instantly, because what happens is he takes all the damage from the tanks. The Echo flies over the top, starts hitting him with the beam. The beam with the extra damage plus the tank damage basically removes him in seconds.
Now that's off the table, the Gladiators have, oh, I don't know, 5 other ultimates they can use to try and get themselves an early advantage in this fight. Fusions would love a big shatter, and it's honestly easier against this composition to get them. He just needs to watch out for Big Goose or OG's bubble. He pushes in though. It's a dead eye from Jerry. Oh man, he pushed up through the shield. That's nice. OG's down. The Gladiators now playing with 5, and yet those ultimates start to come out like an absolute torrent, and they're working. Mira's able to find a sticky bomb kill on Punk, and Shaz is setting the backline so comfortable, burning Fusions down and giving healing at the same time.
So I would agree with you that, like, in theory it's easier to get a bigger shatter with Fusions in terms of like actual players, right, with no shields on the side. In theory, but with the Gladiators and the composition that they're playing and the positioning, there's never a time where players are going to be really clumped up around each other, right? Like Mirrors up in the sky, Bird Rings in Viz kind of going on flanks, OG and Space have great mobility. There's not incredible moments where, you know, you can kind of have this, you know, 3-4 player shatter. This is why a lot of times when you see this comp versus each other, you see the Rhine go for like a 1-player shatter. Is, you know, 5 seconds left. Boston's got to get on the point and touch. That'll be Punk going over the top.
Oh no! How do they get to the point with the re-MP like this? They get overtime, but how long will it last? Millenbong goes down early, and a lot of that healing for Boston now falls by the wayside. Mirrors into the backline and helps with that damage as a focusing beam to get Punk out of the mech, but he still has to be careful. Jerry is at large, and so is Color Hex. Good patience by the Gladiators. Brief disengage. Now they want to force Fusions on back. He'd already used his shatter, and a chunky biotic grenade from Shaz means that Jerry can't be healed and he can't be kept alive. Focusing beam on Fusions. He is forced to bear the brunt of it. And for Boston, reality bites.
And I love how the Gladiators have adjusted to these faster compositions, and I'm sure the desk can talk to this a little bit, you know, after the series. But when you're incorporating a new teammate, obviously there's a lot to go over strategy-wise.
Yep.
But you know, people, they just have a way of thinking about the game in certain situations that it may not align with the rest of the team at that moment in time. Punk seems to be fitting in well, but the one way to test that and exploit that is to play fast. If you play fast and force a team with some new players in a new composition to make quick decisions when they haven't had a lot of time to talk about how they would like to react to said decisions or what's the game plan in certain situations on certain maps, it's only been potentially a week. That's where you can exploit weaknesses, and that's where you can force mistakes, where I really like how the Gladiators have done that. They've upped the pace here.
Well, clearly the Gladiators' spirits are lifted after that previous round because Mira has time to call OG a monkey one trick in chat. You'd love to see it. Boston will not be playing with the Winston here, so it will be the Reinhardt for them.
Overwatch League players have no regard for their trash talk, even if it's a teammate.
Oh, I think it's even worse there. I mean, that's probably what you'd expect. Myeonbong thinks he's a zero trick. I disagree. His Ana was incredibly impactful, just not quite enough to get them over the line in that last round. Again, a Sombra here from Birdring. Shut down the Echo, maybe?
So the players have now just started to talk in the game chat. Yeah. I like the Ashe on D to control that back high ground, as Birdring will match it. You could have actually played Sombra here, right? You're in a one-fight win scenario with 3 minutes on the clock. That's good for what? 2 EMPs, 3 EMPs?
Depends on the length of the fights, yeah.
Yeah, where you would think that one of those EMPs would be good enough to get you the point, but...
Oh, I like this off angle, but it's Sigma and it's going to be Echo Punk. Just running, still running, still running. Okay, he's able to get away, but that was dicey. He even gets hit with an accretion on the way out. That would have been like taking candy from a baby for the Gladiators if they find the Sigma there. Oh, the D.Va, should I say. OG's pushed up. All right, Fusion's high, can't stand his ground. Shaz, another biotic grenade. Makes it impossible for Boston to keep their main tank standing. What a blow, but great recovery. OG gets hit by the sticky bombs, and Punk, hello, gets the whole backline.
Yeah, Punk is able to stay alive through all of that, which is absolute madness.
Tremendous even.
Gotta give a lot of love to the supports there. Halo and Myungba keeping him alive through all of that damage as he went down to basically dead twice. during that first fight. So
you should not have asked for this.
You're not going to be able to capitalize on this, I don't think.
Almost did. That
You get them really low, but yeah.
Okay, if there wasn't a knockback component to accretion, that would have been a kill because there was a salvo of orbs immediately after that one from Mira. Trying to get the sticky bomb on him.
I mean, they would have been devastated if like the Gladiators ran like we're running a Lucio at the time, right? Like that would have been potentially like game over type of scenario.
Shaz is unbelievable. It is just ridiculous. Fusion so gets rid of OG early in the fight. Nano Boost, of course, goes a long way towards making a Reinhardt comfortable with getting into enemy territory. But Color Hex overextended a little bit too far. Mira copies up Brigitte here, which means, yes, the Gladiators want to brawl. Up to the point they go, but both Mira and Bob knocked on their rear ends. Mira, though, was in duplicate form, so he just turns back in Echo and tries to focus beam down Fusion's a shield. He's forced away, but Punk, so much work being done working on the other arm of the Gladiators, getting rid of space, but he's brought back with the Resurrect.
And the Glad's throwing a lot of ultimates at this. You know, a minute and 30, there's a lot of time for them to save and get one really good push like they did on Gibraltar.
OG just needs to be patient. Patient for a shatter. He gets Myeonbong knocked down. No healing available for that brief little, but it's enough to help them get rid of Fusions with the dynamite from Birdring. Make it 2 for the Birdman. And now he can flank around. No one's looking at him. Go for a coach gun hit, knocking Color Hex forward now as he's duplicated to Reinhardt, but OG's being kept healed up. Again, Punk goes on the flank, finds an DPS on his own, and Color Hex breaks through on the Reinhardt. A shatter. Oh, he didn't quite get it. But Shaz is down thanks to that fire strike, and there's only a minute left for Los Angeles.
So the Gladiators do end up forcing a scenario, though, much like Gibraltar. The Boston holds on. Their defense has been very strong throughout the map. The issue is now the Gladiators come in one-fight territory where they'll have Bob, Gravitic Flux, and a Nano Boost, potentially even getting the Valkyrie out of this, where Boston has nothing. Boston has to come up so big here as the Bob will kick things off.
Bob in, OG given the Nano Boost now. Fusion's getting a taste of his own medicine, and the hammer swings look just like the Reaper's Scythe there. The Gladiators get the job done again, once more. In the final moments of a round, they will triumph.
Yes, they stack their ultimates, and they know that Boston has nothing at the time, and really all that's needed to break that open is the Nano Boost on OG. He gets in the face of 3 players, starts swinging the Reinhardt hammer, and there's no answer for that.
Who would have thought it was so simple to win the round, Matt?
Yeah.
After all that.
Well, you know, look, all it comes down to is, I mean, obviously Overwatch in general, especially in a situation like that with one tick, it's just the offense forcing a situation where they have a ton of ultimates and the other team doesn't.
Sure.
At that point, you have to throw so massively to be able to lose that. Like, think about that fight. You had Bob, you had a Gravitic Flux, you had a Valkyrie coming online, and a Nano Boost to absolutely nothing. Like, it would be very difficult to lose that fight.
You did mention prior to that fight that you felt like the Gladiators were using quite a lot of ultimates, though, that there was a risk of sort of being full held as a result of not being able to have them online at all times. But Matt, it looked like there was just a window that came along where the Gladiators were able to hold onto ultimates and not be forced to part with them.
Right, they were able to extend that fight for a longer period of time, and they were able to build back up towards some of those ultimates. And towards the end of that fight, Boston, because it's such a dire scenario, they have to invest the rest of theirs, which gives the Gladiators an advantage at the end.
Well, the Gladiators now go up 2-1 and heading into map number 5. They are on match point, but they should be concerned because we're headed back to control maps now. It's going to be Lijiang Tower coming up here at the Overwatch League after the break, potentially the decider of this series.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was a slow start for the Los Angeles Gladiators in this series against the Uprising, but they seem to have woken up. And now with OG and Mira firing on all cylinders, the Boston Uprising matter having trouble holding him at bay.
But Boston did win the control at the beginning of the series. Although we did have paintbrushing from Big Goose, we'll see how much of a difference that makes in terms of maybe calling, etc. But Boston did look good on control at the beginning. Now with the series being decided potentially by 2 controls, Boston still has a fighting chance to get their second win of the season.
These 2 rosters, I actually don't know if the Gladiators has ever beaten Boston. I know it's kind of crazy, right? Last year, I think it was almost a year to this day, they got 3-1 by Boston, like way back. So it's just the way the schedule sort of turned out. I think they dealt with Boston when Boston were looking stronger in general. But if you just look at the numbers, you could consider the Uprising to be a bit of a bogey team for it. Now that's based on Backpack Matt's stats, so we'll see if that's actually true. But Lijiang Tower, Matt, you are correct. The Uprising looked to be very solid on that map, and it looked like a lot of that momentum was being generated, especially by fusions.
Yeah, they could run like the Zarya potentially again, like they tried to with the Ryan Zarya, and get really aggressive with fusions, but fusions definitely set the pace early on. I think the answer, though, for the Gladiators is if they are going to be that aggressive, take the aggression back, force them to make mistakes, figure that out on the fly, because I think that's where you can really start to exploit a team like Boston. I think if you allow Boston to play the aggressive role and then force you to be reactive, I think that's where Boston can keep winning.
Well, map number 4 5 actually, should I say. We had a draw. Map 5 will be Lijiang Tower. And again, we might need a 6th one if we do see a Boston victory there. Well, it must be a victory, and there will be with our control maps here at the end of the series.
Be one of the rare series where Boston could win the series theoretically with only winning 1 game mode.
That is true. That is true with a draw in Hanamura. I mean, they maybe could have won Hanamura with 2 minutes and only 1 tick required, but that will just have to follow through the sands of time. So would you say, Matt, that the Gladiators could be more aggressive? You would like to see them be more aggressive?
Yes, absolutely. I want to see the Gladiators really take the fights to Boston. I think that's where they can make their biggest impact. I think that's where you've clearly seen them make their biggest impact throughout the series. And they've been playing the Winston D.Va stuff. It's allowed Mira to play the Echo a bit better. OG's gotten a ton of value out of Primals, etc. They've looked really good with that setup.
How about this, Matt? It is confirmed. The Gladiators have never beaten the Uprising. In 5 matches, this will be the 6th.
And that surprises me because the Gladiators have been such a strong team throughout the first 3 seasons of the Overwatch League. Really top 4, top 5, like at worst in terms of your own power rankings, like for the first 2 years. This year, they look to have a very good roster. That'll be one of the better ones in NA in time. So kind of surprising. But Boston, although they've been bad as of late, Boston has had some very good stages in the past. They've had some good teams.
But they've had the tendency to have some of the best stages followed by some of the worst. That is what the franchise has kind of tracked over the first couple of years of them being a part of the league. But here, they might be onto something. Shocking that it was an Australian player. Never would have thought that would happen.
Oh yeah. We'll do a watch party special of just you and Custa just talking about Vegemite for 4 hours. Vegemite and Punk. Yeah,
Punk. Well, Punk can come on there and share his views. That would be kind of dope. I'm sure he loves it like a good Australian. But it's going to be the Reaper and the Torbjorn play here. Color Hex put to sleep early on, and oh dear, Birdring makes a very early exit from this brawl.
So this is it's actually really interesting. So the Gladiators, they want to be the aggressive team now using the Zarya, try and barrel in. What Boston decides to do is say, hey, instead of dealing with the aggression by trying to play fast and kind of match it, let's just play a really bulky deathball type of composition where the Torb is great against the aggression. You have the Reaper there to blow up the tanks. It's an interesting switch here from Boston, but it's a good one.
It feels robust. It feels kind of safe, to be honest.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, dear. Okay, Birdring again has to Wraithwalk defensively out of the fight. Jerry Lee seems really comfortable. You don't need healing, bro. There was a health pack.
Hey, Jerry was literally 100 HP when he asked for healing.
Nothing gets me more than that, I'll be honest with you. Fusion's going to make his way forward, though. Okay, it was actually Space who gets the nano boost here on Zarya. It must be charged up. What? A gravitic flux. That is beautiful. Connection there from Punk. What? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. He at least either killed or got assists with it. I can't believe he just did that to Shaz. Oh, come on, man. You can't do it to Shaz.
Yeah, Shaz.
They just ended that man's career, dude.
I mean, I doubt that. I think Shaz can survive.
I think just anyone that's going to bounce back from a Torb hammering is probably Shaz.
Yeah.
The guy's stoic as all heck.
Color Hex will have Molten Core here, so that'll be able to close off a whole checkpoint. Youngbug again, he's been doing this so many times, just lingering on the outside of these fights with these big biotic grenades. Gotta keep fusions up though.
This is very Violet-esque, Matt. The Shock would like to do this a lot as well. Fusion's caught inside there. Okay, Molten Core. Mirror tries to go aggressive and somehow field goals that entire Earth Shatter. He's able to get up into the air though, and Fusions will try and chase him down with the Fire Strike. Shaz. Again? Oh god, no! Have some humanity, Color Hex. I know you're a Kiwi, but even this is a bit much.
Well, what is his options? I mean, he stands there and either gets to die to the hammer or they just stagger him for a while. So you may as well die to the hammer.
There is nothing remotely Bushido about that kill.
Gladiators are in some trouble. They're going to have a sound barrier here, but they got to get a use of it. As OG, it's so low, the sound barrier comes in.
Oh, it actually allows him to get the charge at the end, but Jerry is able to work him down. Still only the one kill in that fight for the Uprising, mean that they will have to be evicted. No other choice.
So they get a big fight win. OG hits a big shatter when he's going for the follow-through. It looks like he's going to die, but the sound barrier is enough to keep him up, to just put down enough damage for his teammates to come through and clean it up. But the Glads need to be perfect from here on out.
All right. Shaz finishing up requesting a raise for psychological difficulties. Poor guy. He's recovered though when he has a nano boost, so he'll be able to help his teammates recover as well. Jerry! Oh, Jerry! Gets in and finds a quick double, and nothing better than the Reaper Copter with a nano boost. Easy fight win, and the Uprising will stand amongst the ruins. The smoke clears, and it's the blue and yellow taking the victory here on Lijiang Tower, round 1.
The only thing better than the Reaper with the nano boost is Reaper with the nano boost when it had speed attached to it as well.
Oh, yes. And a Zarya bubble and a Lucio speed boost? Yeah.
But you know, times have changed. She only gets the speed from Lucio now, not from multiple targets. So Boston 1 round away from forcing the odd map 6 control.
Yes. This is the old classic map.
Do they play the Symmetra here? You can play Symmetra on this point. It's not the ideal one to play it on. Like Night Market is the Symmetra point. You could play it here. You could TP out the spawn. It looks like both teams probably will TP.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I mean, you know, that sort of pylon and the wall in the middle of the point can make it easier for Symmetra to get away from scrutiny, and it's just easier to get behind Reinhardt's shield when the chokes are smaller. Shaz. Oh man, Jerry, he's feeling himself now. A bit of momentum from that last round. And okay, fair to hammer. Feeling a bit flippant, bit flamboyant. All right, Jerry.
It's a memento of Soman Su there, the fan the hammer flashback.
Yeah.
Jerry just trying to show some love to his boy.
I'm so glad you reminded me of that. That was incredible. Much love to Soman Su. You will be missed.
We'll see if potentially the league again.
He has to, surely.
Yeah. Boston able to take the point relatively with no defense here. No from the Gladiators, no resistance. They'll lose Big Goose as well. So now the Gladiators, you can't engage because you lose your speed. You don't have the Big Goose to build up towards, I guess, sound barrier here. So you have to wait. This will give Boston another, 20 or so %.
Los Angeles have to wait a little bit on this one. Now, no key ultimates around the corner. I mean, they basically might just want to feed this fight. I know it sounds weird, but let's see what they can get. OG chunked a little bit early there by the sticky bombs, and Color Hex, he wants to commit. Do it, copy OG. Oh, here it comes! Special delivery, Agent Reinhardt via Paratrooper. Tries to go for a shadow on the back line. Great shield from space, fantastic response, and another one! Oh my, 2 shadows, 1 shield. Fantastic stuff for the Gladiators, living up to their logo, I suppose. Still, the shields are finally worn down, and so is the constitution of the Gladiators. Boston finally break through.
I feel so bad for Space at that fight. He blocks a shadow from Color Hex, blocks a shadow from Fusions, accretion onto Jerry to knock him out of the Deadeye, and his teammates just kind of fall over and die. That is a rough one for
his
Space to live through.
I quote, just kind of fall over and die.
Yeah.
I think it was assisted a little bit there by Boston, man. They definitely...
Yeah, there was a little bit of help.
The shields just couldn't last. I mean, the Gladiators weren't close enough to Boston when the shields went down.
But now the Gladiators have a lot of big ultimates online there, and Boston's given them the point, right? They're allowing them to take some control here.
Birdring creates space, somehow finds Jerry, needle in a haystack, but Birdring is as sharp as they come. OG's trying to make his way around the backside. Charge? No. Okay, Fusions didn't drop at the time that he thought he would, but it doesn't matter. The Gladiators finally stay alive, and I mean, this can't be how this goes down. The Gladiators fight the whole series until it gets to control, and then what, they just get boomed?
Nah, you got to think the Gladiators gonna start clicking a little bit here. Now they'll have a nano boost here to potentially use onto. We've seen it used on Mirror a few times. We've seen it primarily used on OG. The big ultimate here, though, for the whole game will be Color Hex, this duplicate. What does he decide to do? Does he get value with, like, maybe going for the Sigma? Does he go for the Reinhardt? It looks like he's trying to go for the Reinhardt again on the flank.
Oh no, he's got... Oh, Shaz couldn't survive that yet, but even tried to go for a biotic grenade, I think, and got burst down. Color Hex now could work around the backside. I don't think he noticed that there's actually McCree still behind him, but it doesn't matter. The Gladiators, I mean, losing Shaz so early, that burst damage is, frankly, it's terrifying.
And you still have this duplicate to use, which is going to make it even harder as be a nano boost here used on Mir. He gets taken out virtually instantly as he's just trying to contest the point. It'll be Boston who takes it from the Gladiators.
All right, Color Hex is going to be copying Sigma here. Accretion may be desired to slow OG down, but it may not even be needed. All the damage was there. Focus Fire was good, and Big Goose is brought down to the earth. Jerry misses his shots on Birdring, but Birdring lacks sort of any follow-up, and Shaz just got ruined by the first half of that Gravitic Flux based on how low he was. Mirror, admirable indeed from Mirror, but not enough, and the Uprising even it up. It will be another map required in this series, as these teams just will not stop throwing haymakers.
We'll go to 6 here in Boston versus the Gladiators. Look, when I thought this match was going to come up, I was kind of like, I think the Gladiators probably just roll them, but Boston's starting to come alive. They've looked really good all series, even though they do lose some of the other game modes. They've looked competitive. And Color Hex with a little spice in the chat. I think he died to Veer at the end on the Doom, and he just typed Doom one trick with like disease, like he's falling asleep. So we'll see. It's getting a little contested between these two teams going into the final map.
Matt, all eyes were on the next match. Philly versus Atlanta is the top one of today, but this one has really taken us by surprise. Let us not stop the fun here. Just wait a couple moments, take a breath. We'll be back with map number 6. It will be the decider. Will it be Boston or the Gladiators? We'll find out right after this.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, helping you stay connected to what matters most. Learn about T-Mobile's COVID-19 response on T-Mobile.com.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Gladiators and the Uprising is going to go all the way. And I thought this would, just be a taste tester before the Shock versus the Rain coming up next. Excuse me, I got that wrong before the break. But this has turned into a main event all of its own.
I know how you can think it would have been Philly. You know, you have all the Philly paraphernalia all over your room. You dress up as Gritty for Halloween.
No, I actually am Gritty.
I know you're a big guy.
I am Gritty. Have you ever seen me and Gritty in the same room?
But it's the Shock. No, well, actually, yes, I have. Yeah, the Philly.
Oh, true. That actually, that
I
happened,
actually have seen you and Gritty in the same spot. But yeah, I did not expect this one to go to the distance. Boston has looked really good today. The Gladiators have been a bit up and down. Both controls so far, though, have gone to the Boston Uprising, which would lead you to believe they're in a great spot to steal this series away, which a huge loss for the Gladiators, obviously, in terms of their season, but also in terms of their standing within the May tournament.
I mean, yeah, it puts them in a much scarier position now. They've much less control over, their destiny when it comes to the tournament itself. I don't know. It's look, there's a lot of stats actually here that I wanted to bring up, but they don't really matter today, as I've seen. The only one that matters is that Boston's never lost to the Gladiators. That seems to still be the case, Matt. It's Busan from map 6.
We also would have to get the May tournament standings, because I believe if Boston would getting at one win, I think they kind of saved themselves potentially from that 12-13 game.
Right.
Because Vancouver hasn't won yet.
Yep.
And I don't think the Justice have won yet. So they could potentially, obviously, if they win this, leapfrog both those teams and get out of the play-in and secure a spot with just one win. I mean,
that would be pretty big. The world that we live in, Matthew. That's
it is. I mean,
yeah. I was just double checking that. You are right.
Yeah. I'm always right.
Okay. Thank you for reminding us all of that fact. And I mean, look, Paintbrush came out to a substitution earlier on. Big Goose has looked good. I don't actually think...
I don't think Paintbrush was bad.
No. Well, we also know that now because the Gladiators struggled on that first control map. Now Big Goose is in. The problems are still there. The problem may not even lie with the Gladiators so much as it just does with the Boston Uprising being really competent on these map types in general. Now, Matt, as we head into Busan, you expect to probably see no huge changes to Boston's strategy.
No, and I think where Boston has really kind of made their strides and kind of made their money in this series is coming out with really good team compositions that they kind of know what the Gladiators are going to opt for. And they've done a good job of countering those, right? Coming out with the Torb Reaper to prevent aggression and whatnot. When the Gladiators started to use aggressive compositions to end up winning some of the maps that they did. Boston did a nice job of countering those. It'll be interesting if the Gladiators go back to a Doom Reaper setup. Obviously, Mirror extremely strong on the Doomfist. Birdring can play the Reaper. I think Boston would be a little surprised by this.
Mirror is right where he wants to be, Matt. He got to show a little bit of Doomfist off at the end of Lijiang Tower, and it didn't amount to much in the end, but it still reminded us of just how scary he is on that hero. Look at Jerry. Who is looking at Jerry? No one. Jerry's looking at everyone right now, just slanging shots in there and sitting back comfortably. So the Gladiators take ground. They take a decent amount of damage as a result, though, but they've got the Batiste with them. Myeonbong goes low. Mirror, he's gone.
So he had a Zarya bubble on him as well, but there's a lot that they have to deal with the Doomfist as Space comes in, though, with all that energy, though, off of the Doom. The rest of the Gladiators follow it up. Although it's not the Doomfist that gets the real pickoffs and swings that fight for the Gladiators, it's just the initiation of the Doom, the chaos that it causes, allows Space to gain the energy, and that allows the Gladiators to take the point. But what Boston does have here to deal with this Doom, right, is the biotic grenades when he comes in. Jerry, who's playing the Ashe, could have just used the coach gun to get away. But look, now Boston adjusts. They go strictly with a composition that's very good against this dive composition that the Gladiators want to play. They'll play the Torbjorn.
Project punish the Doomfist. That turret doesn't get much for Colorhex there as the Uprising weren't pushing up with it. And again, Mirror goes in, but Colorhex he nails him to the wall or rivets him, as it were. Look at this, Birdring now has to try and get away. Shatter did not connect really for Fusions, but Colorhex has the high ground, question mark.
And
He's
you have the
sat
turret
here looking awfully comfortable. And Fusion's caught inside the Graviton Surge, but OG's down in the Boston Uprising. This composition, Matt, it looks spicy. It looks good.
Look, it makes just a ton of sense. Sometimes you don't have to get extremely creative. You have to just do what you've seen in the past weeks that makes sense and what you've seen be effective. As the Glads do get up to 50%, but who's going to deal with that Torb turret up on the high ground from Color Hex? There was nobody to deal with it from the Gladiators at that time. Shaz was across on the Batiste, trying to get some healing, but he can't poke out, getting just poked down constantly by the Torb turret. So Boston will get control.
I mean, if the Gladiators don't win around playing this kind of composition, then I don't know if they do at all today. I mean, this seems to be kind of right where they want to be, Matt. Jerry down to Birdring first, so it's a good start. Even with the Gravitic Flux in play, Punk was not able to stop the influx of Gladiators DPS players in that front line. And now they just want to count the point ASAP here.
Yeah,
they're already at 50%, so they should be feeling all right.
Yep, you'll get about a 35% here for Boston. So Boston holds on to their nano boost during that fight. They end up using the Gravitic Flux, which forces out big use of Sound Barrier, but Boston able to get no kills off the back of it. They lose Jerry at the start, where Jerry's a lot of their damage playing the Reaper in those close quarter scenarios.
All right, well, Molten Core available for Color Hex now. There's also a nano boost for Myeonbong, which is used instantly. That goes to Fusions. Watch out, the Gladiators' floor is lava. They try and go with an Immortality Field to help them out, but, excuse me, Birdring is still taken down by Halo. It's a trade, though. Both teams have lost the DPS, but Space, he's a big factor right now with how charged up he is. He can decide this fight. No! He takes himself down. A right-click finishes him off, but the damage was there from the Uprising. They were held inside the Graviton, but they were still swinging, and they will still get the point.
Yeah, that was another grab from Space. Really, like 2 fights almost back-to-back with grabs. So that time, though, it's a big one, but his team's not able to have any follow-up.
But now Mira
down.
has to switch over. He's living up to his name now, Matt. He has to go for it.
Yeah, so they'll go with an exact mirror matchup, where in the mirrors throughout the series, the Gladiators were winning a lot of them, to be fair, when you think back to Gibraltar specifically.
All right, Torb turret removed for both teams, apparently. That's the pleasantries out of the way. 95 to 60. And the Gladiators just need one more fight to stay alive and give themselves a shot at just taking the whole series away.
But with the switches on the Gladiators, you do go behind on some ultimate. So Boston should be able to hold on to some here and win this fight.
Yeah, Gravitic Flux really starts that fight off well, and Myeonbong is able to find OG there because there's no other shield to protect him. Biotic Grenade able to claim that kill. So the Uprising now maybe don't want to overinvest too heavily here. This is an interesting decision, I guess, to boost Fusions there. Yeah, I don't know why. They'd already won the fight.
I don't really like that. I mean, the Gladiators are returning to their spawn. I mean, it buys them a few extra seconds here where the Gladiators have to wait for Space. But I think you could have potentially used this nano for the last fight, right? Like, if the fight breaks out on the point, having that nano would have been big.
Well, one more fight here. 99 to 95. We're in overtime. Boston control the point, but play off it to start with. They value the high ground that highly. And Color Hex's turret is already down. That body grenade could have been nasty, but it didn't quite make it to its intended destination. Fusion's tried for a shatter there, but he's extremely out of position. Pump, though, doesn't care. He's getting the damage done in the background. Fusion's finally falls, but the damage, like I said, had already been inflicted. And Color Hex, with the cheekiest of plays, trying to do the big use what he'd done all round to Shaz. And now the Uprising secure themselves a window to end the match here on Busan.
And I've obviously even, I think all the analysts and whatnot favored the Gladiators in the series outside of Cat Bren, I believe. But nothing would lead you to believe that the Gladiators are going to come back here on this control and take it. Like, Boston in these just straight up fights have been able to win on control and really punish the Gladiators at a lot of positions, as we'll see what the Gladiators decide to run now. This is another compositional change that we haven't seen from them this far, potentially. They do run this. 76 versus Ashe is like an interesting matchup. You get out ranged, you get out damaged. You have the sprint to get away in certain positions, but
it is
still
a
not the ideal
classic
choice. Yeah.
Halo, by the way.
Goes ball.
Halo did a heck of a lot last round with a lot of environmental kill potential. He's got as many kills as anyone else on his team with 4 final blows. Everyone in Boston really committing to the brawl and getting involved. Jerry, okay, he doesn't really want to flank, but he also doesn't want to play close to the corner because sticky bombs are going to be punishing.
Like, I think I'm scared for the Gladiators that if Boston were to win or even lose a fight, you could come back on Torbjorn and just wreck this composition, right? Like going up against the ball, the 76 with the shields, Tor would be pretty nasty against this. Is you're going to have OG got low, and then that forced some of the remaining members of the Gladiators to push up, and they get both tanks right away. Gladiators take the point, but this will not be for long. You're going to get like 5% out of this. Boston will flip it and get control.
The Gladiators have a composition, Matt, that features a ton of mobility with the the combination of Echo to 76 in the Wrecking Ball. So it can be hard to predict them, but if each of those mobile elements are committing to trying to find kills one at a time, then they're not going to find any at all. The Uprising have a lot of healing. They have a Lucio to help heal for their backline. They don't have a main tank, so that could be an issue.
A little bit extra damage from the Gladiators as well, playing the Zenyatta, as this will be a nano onto Punk. They're just trying to get control of the point yet again, but that'll be Shaz using Transcendence, keeping the rest of the Gladiators up. As Boston, they'll back out for a quick second. It looks like Halo healing up some of the rest of their team, and then they're going to re-engage.
And Myunbong is, I don't know, he's in a different postcode right now. I think the rest of his team were very low on that left side and only had Halo to heal them, so that slows the Uprising down a whole lot. Still, 26-26. Pretty much even here across the board, and we saw a Transcendence by Shaz in that last fight, so that's now gone.
Bob here for the Uprising. One shield from space, no sleeper, like anything, no Ana, right?
Yeah.
So let's see if Jerry can get a Bob off, which could be a little bit more impactful than some of the other times.
Yeah, exactly. Tough to mitigate that damage outside of Kinetic Grasp, and oh man, there'll be less healing available now. Poach gun for Jerry, trying to give himself a little bit of space, but Mirror is still able to catch him. That Bob pretty much forces the Gladiators away from the point, and the Uprising are able to retake.
Yeah, but how long can you hold on to this for? As Bird Ring gets a little bit low, Punk putting some damage down. With the Hyperspheres, as you see OG coming in, trying to dive, as Halo gets back in the action, gets a big sound barrier off.
Now that is gigantic. Halo on this map has been sick. Punk now is going to get the Gravitic Flux, but follow-up's not there, and there's no shields to protect the Uprising from the tactical visor of Bird Ring. And that puts Gladiators back in control. The point has changed owner so many times already in this round.
And I think the big thing that's enabling this composition from the Gladiators is one, Bird Ring's done a nice job of just creating off angles, just kind of rotating around, getting flanks. But I think also the damage of the Zenyatta is very impactful here. So what does Boston do? They decide to go after the Zen here by playing some Sombra. Try and put some more pressure onto Shaz.
Mirror, knowing his team controls the point, actually just sits back a little bit so it's an easier flank with the flight. Space copying an absolute beating, though, from range. I could say Jerry's probably got something to do with that. And the Sombra here for Color Hex. Extra shutdown potential on the Wrecking Ball. And Fusions, look at this. Space, no chance of escape. I do love what we saw from Punk there, though. Pushing into that opening and making sure that the rest of the Gladiators couldn't help at all while Space was being focused.
And that's one of the major issues, I think, with the Gladiators comp is if you decide to do that, if you're Boston, let's nano fusions and get on the point. What are your options if you're the Gladiators? Well, we can back up the point, or we can have somebody get on and fight it. If it's OG, he gets bashed and then just eliminated. If it's Space, they just speed boost in and
walk ahead of the shield.
Yeah, and just knock them down. There's no counterplay there for that for the Gladiators, which leaves them in trouble.
The Uprising, they've worked very hard for this potential victory, but they need another fight win here at least. Earthshatter attempt. Space was knocked down, but there was a Transcendence there for Shaz just in time. Myunbong and Jerry are down, though. Punk's able to find at least the enemy Sigma, but you see Color Hex is already on the point. He's already secured it now, and the Boston Uprising don't have any players to be standing on it. That's the problem. They have to put together some kind of drawn-out stagger, but they don't have the players alive for it here. They take a risk. It doesn't pay off. They secure overtime with Color Hex, but that may be all that they can get. Okay, nice job. Just in time, Fusions gets to the point. Adaptive Shield keeps him alive a little bit longer. Again, overtime getting precariously close, but it has to be Halo. The issue for Boston, Matt, is it's just one by one. They need a lot more than that to get there, and there's no one to really bug or pester these backliners. But Jerry gets Mirror. Is this an opening?
And they had a few players weak, but it looks like the Gladiators are holding on here, as that'll be a Gravitic Flux coming in from Space. You see Shaz just trying to connect with Halo. So that'll be enough for the Gladiators to hold on, take the second point. So Boston did stall there for a little bit at the end, but not enough. So this series will decided by 1 point of control. So it comes down to the literal wire.
Map by map, round by round, it's been a little while since we've seen such a close match. Even the ones that, like the teams that love to go to 5 maps, I guess like the Boston of the past and Philadelphia. They weren't always close maps inside that series. Sometimes it was quite a seesaw between the team that was dominant. This one, though, this one has been neck and neck for both of these two teams. Think back to the payload maps. Think how close the defenders were from being able to hold after getting stopped short on Gibraltar. That was Boston, of course, failing to finish the map there. And now it's all going to go down here in downtown, baby. OG back on the wings.
Boston's got this comp, though, yet again. Look, they're going to see exactly what the Gladiators are doing, and they're going to rush the point. And if you can you see where they're positioned right underneath OG here? This is so difficult to break with the double shields. Maybe a little bit easier with Echo's inclusion into the game to be able to burst down the barriers. But still, it's a rush comp, right? They're gonna rush you down with the Reaper, and then if you try and dive it, they have the Torbjorn turret and the setup there.
Yeah, Boston set up looking like they were just going to sit on the low ground and wait for the Gladiators to come to them. But then the Gladiators split up on the high ground. They leave a couple sort of vulnerable targets on their own, and Lucio's speed boost is kind of broken. It is just crazy how quickly you can go from A to B, and the Gladiators don't have an option, so they couldn't disengage. If the fights start badly for the Gladiators here, there is no getting out. They will definitely be extra staggered and give extra ult percentage if they start fights badly, and the Uprising are already ahead at 20%.
Yes, Boston, they couldn't really turtle there. They had to take the fight because Mira was able, with some of the rest of the team, to be able to break the shield down very quickly, which made all of Boston extremely vulnerable. So I wonder what the Gladiators are doing. Like, they're not really sitting anything up right now.
Are they sure?
The Space gets positioning the mid. They deal with the turret. Now the nano boost will come through.
All right, well, we saw Space there go back and try and stop Jerry from making his way into their backline. OG, his nano boost gets him so little value. His team's not there, so credit to him for not committing. Now at least he has Primal Rage. Jerry, okay, he has to get away. So the Uprising now are lacking their damage dealers, and they are so split, completely separated. Mira gets a 2-for-1 on the focusing beam, which is kind of gross.
Ooh.
And Jerry, he's going to get to the point, man. He's going to be low. Still, the Uprising have the numbers. Okay, that Molten Core did work, but Mira, as soon as he gets a beam, he gets a kill.
And they ended up using the sound barrier there, did Boston. I'm not exactly sure why they wanted to fight use the sound barrier, but I mean, dude, getting rid of Mirror, he's been the only real difference maker for the Glads today in terms of the DPS. His echoes become great. Now they're able to flip the point right back, as Mirror was the one who's putting enough damage on the shields to get Boston out and rotate in the first place, and now that you lose them, that's a lot of that damage.
Gladiators go Nano, Rally, Primal Rage in that fight, Matt, and they get, I don't know, 12 to 20% from it in total. The Uprising, I think it was off the back of that Molten Core from Color Hex, just splitting the Gladiators apart as they were also respawning back in. Now the Gladiators need to find their way around, a Shatter, a Gravitic Flux, like a nano-boosted Reinhardt running at them. That's brutal. They have to walk through chokes at that, no less. So I guess Bob's a good way to try and open this fight up. Birdring lets it go, and he is sneaky on the point, but he can't help his teammate, and they're getting completely trounced.
I mean, they're just getting ran through while he's kind of on the point. I mean, he gets a one on.
Oh, okay.
Still get Myungbong, but he's trying to use the coach gun to stay on the point. There he goes into the train. This looks like Boston's going to be able to take this.
Unbelievable, Matt. The Gladiators try and go for again, but they split Birdring off for the rest of their team and hope his Bob can change the game. But no, again, the floor is lava. Mira has the touchdown for just a moment, and that's all it takes for him to get gobbled on up. He does find a couple kills, but now it's up to OG, and as soon as he pile drives down, he himself gets tombstoned. It'll have to be Birdring dropping onto the point. He disintegrates. Biotic Field does absolutely nothing. Shaz trying to benefit from the healing as well. Now it has to be Space to stand up, but he's in a 1v5, man. It's a sad scenario for the Los Angeles Gladiators. Over the top, Mira tries, but once more, the Boston Uprising maintain their unbroken streak of victories against the Gladiators, and crucially, break a 9-match loss streak. What a huge result for this team.
A huge win for the Boston Uprising, and no, look, you gotta feel good for them, as they've been struggling mightily as a team, right? So to add Punk, and then in his first game get a win against the Gladiators, who a lot of us have thought could turn into a very strong team this season. It's a big win for Boston. It's huge for their May tournament standings, and also at the same time, it's a really poor loss for the Gladiators. If you want to contend to be one of the best teams in North America throughout the year, these are the type of games you need to win, and they didn't have it today.
No, not at all. And the Gladiators now, while this might not really compromise their chances here in the main tournament. Because bear in mind, hero pools are not going to be an issue as we get into the tournament itself.
Right.
We'll probably see more of a unified take on the meta at that stage with everything available. But you know, if you're the Gladiators, you have to look back. You know, we heard from Space after their loss to the Paris Eternal, and a lot of the glaring issues that came out, if you look at some of the stats, there weren't the same issues today because the hero pool was different. The compositions were changed. It's a different problem now. And so the Gladiators are playing catch up with some of their issues following these losses.
I mean, you can say, though, that this was a very good week in terms of hero pool for Boston. But we saw Boston put a lot of different looks together. It wasn't like they just played one thing and like one trick did all the way to the end. Like they put together a really good counter dive for the Torbjorn setup. They played some Reaper in there as well. They played McCree. They played Ashe. They played a little bit of dive. And I think to play all of those compositions while adding Punk, I think it was pretty impressive. Myungbong also had a phenomenal game, I may say, on the Ana mostly. His biotic grenades a lot of the times were massive. You know, being able to hide out, land big biotic grenades really turned a lot of fights.
Now let's have a look at our May standings, Matt. Of course, the week 3 of our May tournament. Boston with a victory here today. They make themselves up quite respectably to 11th place. So you are right now. You know, their participation in the tournament at the end of the month is essentially guaranteed, and it's the other teams down at 12th and 13th who have to be watching out for themselves.
Yeah, no, the Gladiators fall to 8th place, so that's a huge fall for the Gladiators, as they were probably trying to, well, when the tournament probably began, they were probably thinking they had a chance to potentially get a top 4 seed.
Yeah, that ship has sailed for the Gladiators, so they have to rely on their very well-respected, very tenured coaching staff to help them out of this slump and help them into, of course, the end of this main tournament. Now let's look at our player of the match presented by Xfinity, and it's not a hard one, and we are succumbing to the hype, but it's more than just hype now. It's a proven track record. It's Jerry as your player of the match.
Look, I mentioned it in the pregame that his skill is very, very good. We just haven't seen the highs of its team-winning setting because Boston really hasn't been close in a lot of their games. Today he was great though, whether it be on the McCree or the Ashe, the Reaper towards the end. Jerry was a huge difference maker for Boston today. But I think for the Gladiators, I think Mirror had one of the better games that I've seen him play on stuff other than Doofus. I thought his Echo looked good. They couldn't really get Bird Ring going in a lot of situations. Had a few moments, but wasn't really popping off on the hit scan.
They were isolated incidents more for Bird Ring, I think. His Ashe did look quite good in general, but this time it will be the Boston Uprising. They are 6-0 against the Gladiators in their franchise history, which is kind of insane considering their record now, which is 2-10 in this season. So they are starting to make up a little bit of ground. And hey, if they can continue to be this good at adapting to different hero pools, then more victories will be assured. Punk has to be feeling incredibly good now. Remember, Punk served in the academy roster, you know, for quite some time, looking at the main squad going, I'd love to be a part of that. And, you know, he went back to Australia, you know, after leaving the Uprising Academy. He came straight to America now with his call up to the main roster and has done very, very well. The Uprising should be very pleased. But I tell you what, you should be pleased, everybody at home, because coming up after the break is the renewal of a rivalry that kind of sent shockwaves through the community last year after the results of the San Francisco Shock and the Atlanta Reign going head-to-head in our season playoffs. Remember that moment where it got all thrown away in the final moments by the Shock? The Reign, should I say, took them all the way to the very edge, and the face that we saw on Moth was incredible. So we're going to get that rivalry renewed in a rematch from those two on the other side of the break. Don't go too far. Catch your breath. There's more quality Overwatch coming right at you.